Welcome, everybody, to episode 131 of Perpetual Backlog podcast. I'm your host, Aqua, and joining me, like always, is our capybara lazy boy, Dollet.
Hey, yep, here again. I survived.
Hey. And we decided to bring on another animal to the show. As you can see, he's a camel, and his name is Zeke.
Welcome to the zoo.
Hello. Good to be here.
Yeah. Zeke is a good friend of mine. He is I wouldn't say a complete expert on ARPGs, but he's the guy that I know the most about ARPGs, and that's going to be the topic we're going to have today. But first, we're going to talk about what we've done this week, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows that we've all played the Final Fantasy 16 demo. So much. Once a day for me at least. But we're going to get into the controversial take here, and we'll have Zeke go first, because he actually has non-biased opinions on video games. Unlike Dollet and I.
So, I'm going to go through the demo in the same motions and the feelings I went through as I played through it the first time.
Sure.
I have not even watched a single trailer for this game up until playing it because I wanted to stay completely neutral. I have no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea. All I knew is the main character looks like an emo kid from 2006.
Yeah,
you
that's
can argue
about
that with me.
No,
but,
you're right. You're
I
right.
feel that's a fair judgment.
No, you're right. Especially his younger version.
Yeah. All right, but
No,
we're gonna start. We're
yeah.
gonna start at the start. We're gonna start from the beginning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I turned on the demo, began to play it. It ran me through the options. First option I actually had any meaningful impact with was quality or performance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hit quality because I genuinely I'd rather the game look good. I expect it's gonna be locked around 30 anyway.
Yep.
I go in, I start running through. The opening cutscene, the introduction to everything is fucking beautiful. I'm assuming it's not all pre-rendered. That is in engine, and then it's like kind of like cutting the gameplay, right?
Yeah, like 90% of the cutscenes that you see are going to be in engine. There's like barely any.
Okay, because I did not think that was pre-rendered.
Mm-hmm.
But I am gonna say this: after that cutscene, the moment it ended and went to gameplay, there was even on quality, there's a noticeable drop.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
like
100%,
I'm like, that's a little jarring.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that they had just matched it up a bit better. And with this next part, I'm gonna be really honest. Quality made the game, like at that point of just like in that zone, look almost unplayable. The frame rate was abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
Just walking around, I found the frame rate to be really bad on quality. So I went to performance, and it helped even it out some.
Did it? Oh, wow. That's the reverse of what I've heard.
To me, anyway.
Yeah, the rest of what I've heard is the quality is genuinely pretty rock solid at 30. But in the performance mode, whilst the combat does tend to hang around 60 frames, it's the non-combat, the traversal, where you'll see things dip to about 40.
No, that's 100% it. Because I saw while I was walking around, the world was just worse.
Yes.
But the combat, smooth as butter. Actually. So I have no problems with the combat, and I would prefer that to just be better than exploring the world. Because walking around, I don't need a frame rate. And generally, I'm going to say this now. I don't really care about frame rates. I played Dark Souls, Demon Souls on the PS3 at like 24 FPS at best. And you know what? I don't care. The experience was very good.
Okay.
As long as the game's experience, like the actual combat, the fun of it is not hindered by the frame rate being off-putting, I don't think it really matters that much.
Sure.
I would have liked to see them have strived for like a solid 60 across the board and maybe just tone the game back graphically a bit. Because I think the game is beautiful, but I don't think it's pushing any boundaries or setting like new... What's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it's setting a new standard for terms of like graphics.
Well, hold on. Actually, I'll argue that. I think it absolutely is.
I think there have been games out this year that have looked just as good.
Sure, but I mean, we're still, as far as I'm concerned, pretty fresh into we're only making games for this generation. And I will give you, it's not the best. Like I think there are other games that are more rock solid across, but I think it's still like Final Fantasy. The one thing that it ever does is look pretty.
I agree with that, but I also agree if this game was in a, I'm not gonna say the same art style, but if it looked more like, say, Tales of Arise, would it still not be pretty? Would it not be interesting if they just grounded it slightly? I think it would look just as fine, and it would run twice as well.
So while I agree, a lot of people would not be down for that switch. And for once, I have to be unobjective and say I would genuinely be put off by that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I personally I prefer performance over the look, but I mean, I think what they've achieved here is good enough. Like it's solid enough to enjoy.
Yeah.
I can give you the reason. The reasoning I'm pretty sure is the reasoning why the FPS actually takes a dip even in performance mode. What Digital Foundry found out is that the game's actually perpetually running with ray tracing on, even in performance mode.
That would make sense because the lighting in the game is actually very good.
Yeah.
If not, I find zones to be a little dark. I had to actually turn the brightness up, which is...
I agree.
It's weird because...
That is everybody's take. That is everybody's take. Okay. The game.
Because I was going to say, my monitor... I'm not to be that guy. I have like a $500 monitor. It's very color accurate. It has very good black levels. It's very nice. I've never had to actually turn lighting up in a game in like 2.5 years.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I have a setting on my monitor that I go to game mode or whatever, and it automatically brightens the game up for me. So I didn't in the areas that are supposed to be super dark, I was able to counteract that just with the monitor setting.
That's fair.
But it does kind of wash out the colors a little bit though. Which is a little bit unfortunate.
I don't feel like I lost too much color by just boosting it up some, but at the same time, I think it's something that should have been done in engine. Like,
agreed.
They definitely should take another look at it, another pass on it before it's like set in stone, because I think it could be better.
I think that they are, because they did hear feedback from when the demo was released, and that was one of the things they took note of. 4 or 5 months. How many months ago was it when the influencers first got their hands on this?
It was in March or April.
Oh, because not even as far as I thought. But yeah, so a number of months ago, other people got their hands on it. That darkness is the highest criticism, even before the frame rate, even before how anime things get. Like that has been parroted by 2 different waves of essentially demos. So I have to assume, since we know that they are making tweaks based on feedback, this might be one of them. And honestly, I think it's fair. Like genuinely,
one of their comments on the darkness bit is there because Zeke, you played the iconic challenge after the story mode.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So one of their biggest comments was like, that is literally the only area where it gets that dark. In the game.
That's where I had to turn it up specifically. It was in that area.
Yeah, that specific castle area is the only time it gets that dark.
And I respect that this was a conscious decision to make it dark. I just think it was overkill. I think it was.
I think if they're going to go for the ray trace lighting, right? Because I respect there being no fake lights if they're going full ray tracing, right? If they're going to do that, there just needs to be more sources of light. It's that simple. If they just made a few more sources of light, maybe even make the torches a bit brighter, would have been fine. But that aside, let's get back to where I was at.
Sure.
Start of the demo. All right. So I'm going through, walking around. Things are, going, just walking. Big battle starts happening. I like it. I like the pacing and like what's going on in the world. I think the visuals there, like the visuals at the very start are stunning. It's great. It encapsulates the idea of like this being like a huge, interesting thing that's going on. So now that that's done with, I'm going to jump back to the past, and we're going to go back in time to when he's 15. This is where some of my criticisms and things are going to like kind of start. I find it weird that the first introduction we get is him just laying there in the mud, wake up, time to fucking spar. If it feels like they're trying, at least to me, it feels like they're trying to put a lot of backstory into like a 1-day thing that happens instead of spreading it out. Because I think from the moment it's like, hey, wake up, oh, now you're a guardsman or whatever, you beat me in combat, I was your trainer or whatever, all being like one after another. Oh, it's time to go, the king arrives, it's time to go out, it's time to do this, it's time to do that. I feel as though that's almost too fast. Like, it felt like it was being exposition dumpy, honestly.
Okay.
Like, it's just, I wish it had just time skipped more. Like, it was like just a vision of like over a course of like a year or something. Because like, it seems almost like he's the new guy, but he's been training for a long time because everybody knows who the fuck he is, other than just being, you know, the prince or part of the royal family or whatever.
I'm not.
But it feels like
I was going to say, because obviously, I'm not sure how many times if you do like a time leap back into the past again, but the game is actually supposed to take place over three parts of Clive's history, which is his 15s, when he's 28, and when he's 34.
Okay.
So it takes place at three different points of his life.
I don't think it necessarily takes away from Zeke's argument. After all, he is correct. Like, the entire prologue happens over the course of 3 days. Well, 2 days and 2 nights.
A day and a half.
Yeah. It's like 2 days and 2 nights. Yeah.
2 full days and 2 full nights. That is at least playable. I have no idea how long it took to get from the first mini boss to the final section.
Oh, it took half a day because you said they would get there by night.
That's right. They'd get there by nightfall. So yeah, a full day, a full night, a full day, and half a night. So yeah, it did happen very quickly. I don't have any real issue with that. But yeah, if you were expecting like,
I feel like for how much they want to, I feel like we're getting introduced to the most central, important parts of the story. Right, where there are characters that are there. It's a setup to what's going to happen for like that defines the rest of his life.
Correct.
What we get is, you're the prince, your mother's a bitch, your brother is kind of clingy and, you know, he's a literal younger brother. There's a girl, you got a dog, your dad's around, and he's cool dad. But, like, it's like, that's cool. It establishes them well. But in terms of, like, his life, where he's at, it's like, is he training out there with those men every day, or did he just, like, decide this, like, yesterday, it's time to go?
Oh, so you didn't actually take away the context of the setting. I guess they didn't do a good job of that. Because this was his graduation day.
Okay, I didn't get that at all.
Yes, okay. This now explains a lot. So yeah, and to be fair, they don't really say this out loud. A lot of this isn't even, I don't even think it's in the active time lore, active ATL. Yeah, active time lore.
You have to take a little bit of like the context that you get out, because when Clive is at when they're at Phoenix Gate and he's talking to Joshua, he said Joshua's like, you know, they all look up to you or whatever, and he goes, they used to not to. When he got in there, they all thought he was
but
like
I would like to have seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it feels like
I definitely understand.
There's not. I feel like they could have just spent like even 10 minutes. You could have done it like a training montage, because he literally, when he throws you the wooden sword, it's just giving you the basic tutorial, and he's acting like you're literally just starting to play the game. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, there's nothing in there that makes it sound like you've been doing well, good job, time for a real trial kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, let's see if you can beat me, kid.
Yeah, I think like
that's fair.
And it could be that I take too much of this, but yeah, this was certainly a case of like, this is my graduation. I just lost round 1, and now you're gonna walk me through it again just to make sure that, you know, I don't have a concussion, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna go do it again. But yeah, to your credit, that is the start. Like, we do start on our back looking at the sky. So fair play.
It almost gives me a fucking Destiny Island kind of vibe, where it's like,
oh yeah,
just waking up and like, time to go fight Riku.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wooden sword and all.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Well, I think the one that you're supposed to get away from that is that I think you should, like, his current self, the one that we play as in when they're doing that huge battle. You know, he's also on his back there. All right, looking up. looking.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
the
kind of
framing
like
guys,
triggering the memory
Yeah.
of like how he got there, which I think it's a good transition. It's a good idea. I think if they just spent a little bit more time with it, like just even just like 20 or 30 minutes, because like it's the start of the game. It's like where you're starting. And if you're going to exposition dump in an RPG, just do it in the first 20 minutes. Everyone else does it.
To be fair, I think I think that was the plan, and it just took a bit long. But to your credit, he could have been knocked out, and this instead of flashing to his graduation day where he becomes
the first time he gets knocked out when he tries
exactly. So that's actually something they could have done.
It would have worked a lot better, in my opinion.
Sure.
Now, moving on, right there, from that same point, combat starts. Really good. I can't actually praise it enough. I think that they've struck a good chord between, at least there, being hard and being fun.
Mm-hmm.
With this said, it is 2023. Why can I not have custom controller layouts, just custom button assignments in console games?
Yes,
I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I agree with you.
I find the button layouts, no matter which one I pick, to all be bad.
Yeah, I went through all three of them. I couldn't get comfortable on B or C like I wanted to, so I just went back to A. But once again, I will say that's something that it seems in a future patch. People are saying the day one patch. I'm not sure about that because I think it's
not.
Bit tricky.
It is not the day one patch. The day one patch is 300 megabytes.
It is something that they again received a bunch of feedback on because, like you said, it's 2023. I would love to put things where I want, and to be fair, a lot of games let you do that. This did feel weird.
It's something that needs to just be standardized. And I don't know if Xbox ever did. I know they were talking about it, but it was you could just create custom controller layouts for like as a profile, and then games will just import it. I don't know.
PlayStation actually has it built into where you can change the layout of your buttons or whatever. But from what I heard, it doesn't really work well with 16.
Okay.
But you can actually change like what your buttons do on your controller from the PlayStation like menus and stuff like that.
That's fine. I think that and then games actually supporting it better is a great direction to go in, because I should never have to fight a game to like want to play it. And that's what I'm getting from the game right now.
Yeah.
I still think it's good, but man.
Yeah. From the context of that, due to the demo and them hearing feedback or whatever, they do have like post-launch update features, which are considering adding more button binding options. They're improving frame rate performance. I'm assuming like for performance mode. There is an option. There is going to be an option to adjust or turn off motion blur entirely, because you can't do it in the game.
Thank God. That was my next complaint.
Yeah.
And camera movement speed options.
I didn't even know that wasn't an option.
No, so it is actually. It is actually, and there is a camera sensitivity option in the game or whatever, and you can move it around. I guess people are wanting more. I guess
it's not something I thought about. Like, I've played Devil May Cry. This felt mostly the same.
Yeah.
So honestly, the button layout complaint is real. It's one that I have with Devil May Cry as well. You have to rebind in order to like feel good playing that.
Yep.
I don't actually have a problem with the button layouts, but that's
okay.
I adjust easily.
That's fair. So now I'm going to get into some. Okay, I'll keep going through the motions here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in terms of storytelling, because after that it's mostly just talking, things going on. I think the voice acting is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is a problem I have with art direction in the game, and it's a small one. It's a really small one. He has main character syndrome, right? He literally looks like Yugimoto sitting in a classroom of background characters.
Yeah, his 15-year-old does look like that. Yeah.
Like, I wish he was, even like his attire when he's a kid, he stands out. I wish he was just wearing like a generic soldier uniform. It's another thing that took me out of the idea that he's just another soldier.
The issue with that...
No, he's not just another soldier, but he's like training with him. He's with them. He's
Sure.
When what military are you going to like not give somebody the basic uniform. He looks like he's trying to be the cool kid at school, like in an anime, you know?
I do agree. I thought the hairstyle was a weird choice because I don't really have an issue with his 20s and 30s. He just has shaggy pro tag hair.
Yeah.
But as a 15-year-old, yeah, they went full Sasuke with it, which was a choice.
Yeah. He looks like he looks like the main character, and it's jarring compared to everything else in the world, especially in the early days.
I wouldn't have minded him if you're going to have him wear something different, because I can understand that a lot of the grunts wear what feels like a red burlap sack with some armor on it. What his father was wearing, that jerkin, was pretty nice.
Yeah, I think
what
that was
the
more
Lord
fitting.
Commander is wearing, that seems pretty nice.
Yeah, but he looks like he's trying to look cool.
Yes,
like there's no two ways about it. He looks like the anime protagonist kid, and I don't think it takes away from the game, but I feel like it's just
it's a make fun of point.
Yeah, it really is, because what I'm about to get into, I think, is like the best parts of this. So I think the world design in that area, everything looks super cohesive, other than him.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that it feels very natural in the world. I like the fact that they use magic to like light fires, do things. I think it's a great representation of how, somebody with magic would do it. The candle's out. Well, let me just fix that, snap my fingers. It's a good representation of a fantasy world, and it's probably done in one of the best ways I've seen in a long time, because it feels like a cohesive world of people living and working together.
Yeah.
Rather than it's just like, oh, it's fantasy.
Well,
very good.
Yeah.
Going into the goblin section, I wish I've noticed this already. I feel like when there are multiple enemies on screen, you kind of 1v1 one person, and the other ones don't mess with you that much.
Okay.
Except maybe range units.
They did that for specifically the first playthrough, because in Final Fantasy mode the AI changes for them.
I wish that was already there, because it feels it reminds me of the game. I'm gonna get into
it's like Assassin's Creed. It's like Assassin's Creed where you have people just standing around waiting for you.
You like finish your 1v1 so we can start the next one. It's like a fighting game lobby.
Yeah.
Other than that, basics for my fun having with the combat there, because it's like the first section. I like the perfect dodge mechanic. I think it's really good. I think it's actually fundamentally well designed. It's easier than parrying, in, let's say, Dark Souls. And it also isn't punishing enough to where, if you dodge early, you still don't get hit normally. So it gives you a good risk reward without it being too demanding on players. And I think it's a good middle ground where if you're very good, you can have a lot of skill expression. And if you're not very good, you can still play the game and it's fun.
Yes, both of these things have been proven by various folks who otherwise don't like action games getting through, but a bunch of DMC heads putting together combo exhibitions for the demo alone.
Yeah. Really like that. I like the downed finisher attacks. But for both these things, there needs to be a longer iframe window at the end of them. Because I've had perfect dodges where I've then, done the retaliating attack, and it's put me immediately in front of the attack I dodged, and I take damage anyway.
Yeah.
Same goes for doing the down attack. You get somebody down, you stab them, run them through.
I disagree to both, because you can dash cancel out of the down attack, and honestly, if you get hit after dodging, it's probably because you just needed to dodge again.
No, he's saying he dodged.
Jumping ahead.
You dodge back into the attack.
Yeah, I did the perfect dodge where it slows down, and then I did the retaliate because it's big damage, right?
Yes.
The attack pulled me into the damage that I dodged, and I'm in the middle of an attack animation, so I can't dodge instantly again.
Okay, so
it was on the fire breath enemies too.
So yeah, so then in that case, fair.
I mean,
you should have used magic instead.
That's fair, but I don't think the game should pull you, because I was at the side and it literally turned me into it. what I'm saying is, I don't think I should have gotten thrown back into the hitbox for using the mechanic.
Sure,
I
it's just
should have
like-
used
it's like a
magic. Like
weird-
magic is a good option, but I think
Yeah.
it's weird that the game will pull you back into something. Like it almost curved my character, if you get what I'm saying.
And
to
this
be in
is
the
this is why I
hitbox.
suddenly understand. I'm like, all right, if you had just like weird trajectory, that sounds funky.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
like it
weird
wanted to position you
trajectory.
in front of them for whatever.
Yeah, it put me
Yeah.
back in front. I dodged to the left, and then like the attack pulled me in front of him, like I'm trying to cut off his arms, but I'm just like getting burnt now.
And that enemy
And-
you're specifically, it's like the ninja that does the fucking Katon fire attack or whatever.
Yep.
And you dodge it, and then you do the
You-
retaliation attack. But
and
the
it pulled
cone the cone for it is like actually kind of wide, so
Yeah.
it'll pull you right into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that could use a little bit of work, because I think if you perfect dodge, it might just be best if you retaliate and it puts you behind them, because I think that's fair. Because that puts you at an advantageous spot, and if they're doing like a channel, then you don't have to worry about it hitting you. But then you also have an opportunity of, if it's not a channel, they can just turn around. Like the AI is not bad enough that it won't just turn around.
I don't. Maybe I'm a little MMO brained, but I feel like if you
I mean, I
dodge
could have
the
just done the
attack-
magic attack. That's
Well,
fair.
not even that, because like now I understand what the issue is. Fair enough. I think at that point it's just kind of a case of first time through, don't know the enemy, and that probably won't be a problem against that enemy going forward. No.
Maybe I feel as though it's cheap though to lose that much HP to channeled attacks, because it can't
That
just
is
be him.
true.
You know what I mean? It can't just be him. He
No,
can't
there
be
will
the
be
only
other
one.
fire.
It could be a
breathing
Marlboro
things.
breath. It could be
Sure.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
once you start getting hit, I don't think you can break out.
you can't, and that's the other problem.
Yeah.
So it's annoying, and I think it feels cheap in a game that otherwise feels very refined. It feels like a cheap way to force me to have taken damage,
Sure.
whether it's intentional or not. And that's my complaint with it. The down attack is a little bit different because, you go into an animation and you can roll out of it, you can dodge. But because you're going into that animation, the camera kind of zooms in on the character. So.
Oh no, this is true. Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel
Yeah.
like you don't know what's around you. So there are times where it's like, okay, I just want to go on to the next enemy because I can see them. I can't tell that there are like 12 enemies behind me all powering up, their spirit bombs, getting ready to smack me as soon as this animation finishes. And I feel like I'm fine with the animations, but maybe give like a cinematic option or not to have the camera not zoom in as much, because I think that would help.
Right. No, that I agree with.
That's the only one. Those are my only two real complaints about the overall gameplay there. Other than that, I think the Marlboro fight was really well done. I do like the active
The cinematic strikes and cinematic
the
evasions.
cinematic strikes. Yeah, I wish it was a little bit faster. Like you had to do it way quicker, which maybe on higher difficulties that's a thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think overall it's good. I'm gonna come back to that point in a little while though. But I think that they're fun. I think they're fun. So you fight the Marlboro, and this. I want to emphasize this again. The world feels really, really grounded. Like everything around you feels really, like real. Like they're going for a very realistic approach to a fantasy world. And I think it's very well done. So you get to camp. Things happen. I'm just gonna skip over all that because I do like the story and fluff there. I like the world design still. I like the characters.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then things go bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And things go really bad. And you get like these very, like everyone is dying around you. It's very violent. It's very horrors of war kind of thing. The king gets his head cut off. Blood splatters everywhere. It's realistic, violent depiction of like war. It's violent. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's very gritty. It's very grounded. I like it. Get to the fight with. I'm gonna say this again, combat wise. The fight with the dragoon, really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they nailed that. I really
that's actually Stinian's voice actor as well.
Do we know that for a fact?
Yeah, that is 100. There is no way that's not Stinian's voice actor because
I mean, keep in mind where the casting company is. I also think it sounds like him, but I don't know that for a fact.
Well, in JP, Audrey or whatever has also said that it sounds exactly like the JP voice actor as well.
Interesting.
Unfortunate he dies in the first 10 minutes, I guess.
Just a cheeky cameo.
Yeah.
Yep. But his fight was really good. I like the sequence where he like spins the lance around him very quickly. I found that to be really fun because it gave a good opportunity of like perfect dodge attack, perfect dodge attack, perfect dodge attack really fast. And I thought that emphasizes the good parts of the combat. I like after that, Phoenix shows up, looks cool as hell. And then you get the section where, Ifrit shows up. And, when he transforms, you literally see the guy burn alive.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Really, again, you're grounding this so well. So violent, so cool. The section with the Phoenix and Ifrit. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it was very cinematic. I think it was very well done. Why do you aim with the left analog stick?
Yeah. I feel like
this game is made in
you
Japan.
Aim for that part anyway.
The game is made in Japan. I'm fine with aiming. I know they've played rail shooters. They're in Japan. It's like where rail shooters were invented. Why are you aiming? That's my only complaint with the whole thing. And I think it's a very fair complaint. It's pretty stupid.
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
Because I actually was not understanding why my analogs. I thought my controller broke. I was like,
because you were trying to do it with the right one, right?
Yeah, because it's what else would you aim with? It controls like. With that said, though, I found the whole sequence to be really cool. I thought it was incredibly fun. I kind of wish it felt more dangerous, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was ever at threat of losing it, and I wish that threat existed. But with that said, I think the whole experience was fun with it. I like the spectacle of it. And it's the quick time events there again were good. The cinematic, like, quick events, good. But I'm going to come back to it again, because I want to just keep that theme going of, I think there's a way to make it better. So, that sequence finishes, everything goes to shit. It's good. Like, that whole section, everything is good. I do find the mother to be a little mustache twirly villainy, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't want to hate on her. Like, maybe there's more to it, but it seems almost comically evil in some regards.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did you ever read or watch Game of Thrones?
Some of it. I'm not. I think Game of Thrones. I know this game is heavily pulling from the inspiration and ideas of it, without question, and that's fine. But you need to still write good characters, and she is mustache twirly. And I know there are people that are mustache twirly.
That's what I was about to say.
Did you do any of the active time lore during the game?
Not really.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of this is making sense. Fair.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I don't like it. I just think that's like, it kill him. Oh wait, no, make him a slave. That's way worse. It's like, it feels
the active time lore gives you like a little bit more context that you probably learn later down the line in the game or whatever with stuff, because like it updates like throughout cutscenes or whatever. So
which is wild to me.
Yeah. You can always hold down your fucking touchpad or whatever, and it'll bring up like stuff that's like related to what's going on in the cutscene.
I know there will be an actual person to go do like traditional sit down, get all the dossiers on, but like having stuff during cutscenes is so weird to me because your first time through, who's gonna remember?
Yeah, it's not even remembering to me. I like Dark Souls form of storytelling where it's like you get little pieces of information about the world from people and from items and things like that. I think it's a very good way to set the tone for a world because most people aren't going to sit you down and explain what the hell happened. If you find little pieces of information of like, oh, well, this amulet was owned by a king who, cut his wife's head off and threw it over a cliff, and that's why you found it down here. And it was how the kingdom above you down fell, right? That's enough information to get the idea.
Hold on. Right? I don't know that I would say that's the best thing. I think I think that's worth... go ahead.
I like it. I like it. But I don't like having to read a description to understand what's going on in a cutscene. Things like... I feel like, again, if they had more time at the start, I wouldn't have I would know more about her and maybe her motivations and ideas than other than her just, she's just a cold bitch. I wouldn't have to go look into it.
Still going to push back because I think they're living. I don't think you need to read the lore to get a lot of this stuff. I think there's a lot of context through action. I think there's a lot of show don't tell going on here, which is probably why she comes off so mustache twirling, because they want to establish very early on this person is the catalyst for all of your problems.
No, that's fair. But I think that it could have been done a little bit.
Oh, and again, going back to the very beginning, if they took time and they just showed you that she was like a bitch for 5 years of his life, for his entire life, it would be better.
Yeah, that's what 100%. I'm saying. I wish there was just more to her, like, because she has like maybe 15 minutes of screen time before that.
Not
maybe.
Even. Not
yeah,
even.
I'm stretching here. There's like nothing, and it establishes you're the hated child, and that's it. That's all you get from her. She fucking hates you. Without having to actually dive into, like, pausing the game, reading a small novel, and going, yes, okay, well, this is why she's like this. I feel you lose a lot of her character, and I think it would be better if there was just a little bit more there. So I know it's the start of the game, and it could expand more, but
the real reason why I personally, like, this is just two people having a disagreement on how this is, because I don't think there's an actual objective answer to this. The real reason why I disagree with you is I didn't actually do the active time lore thing the first time through. I had to be reminded of that. I thought I had a pretty good read on her.
I mean, I knew she wasn't like, how should I put this? I know she's very self-serving, like she's looking to push herself ahead, or maybe has some other agenda that she believes is more important. But yeah, I get that, but it just feels like walking through there, having her handmaidens killed immediately after saying, "Oh, spare his life," I guess. Fuck him.
I'm not even talking about that. Like the scene that best encapsulates her whole persona is actually her with her husband, the Archduke.
Oh yeah,
it explains everything. She again, I watched Game of Thrones and I read the books, so like maybe I have a bit of an advantage because I just put another character on her and just use that for parallels.
That might be it.
So it's like, honestly. Nobility had a child that didn't give her what she wanted because it didn't forward her place in power. Had a child that was a not a dominatus, goddamn it, Genshin. A dominant that did give her what I want. That is the important child, because that'll further her place in high society. She married her husband, who presumably she does not love, not for the obvious reason of the end of the game, but because she says it. She doesn't want. It's like she's not interested in a normal man, which she has to remind her. He is also just a normal man. Nothing special about him. He just inherited this seat and he's warming it for his son until his son comes of age because his dad died. So I think like we actually get a lot of that, and a lot of that is, of course, I'm getting from Game of Thrones, because there are 2 or 3 characters that are very much like that. But again, all of this disagreement aside, having a, how long was this? Maybe a 2-hour demo.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Having the prologue have been maybe an extra hour before this, going through some of the earlier bits, might have made this an easier transition, because to your credit, she shows up in 3 scenes, none of her appearances lasting more than maybe 3 minutes.
Yep. It feels like lost opportunity, because again, it might expand upon more in the full game. But if you're really going to try to give us like the start, like the first impression, establish some characters, just go all in on it. Because you've already given us a taste of like the action sequence at the start with, Titan and Shiva fighting it out.
Yeah.
You get some good stuff there. You get the big battles. It sets it up to make you interested in what's going to happen. Taking it back and slowing it down would have probably helped it a lot. Like, I think it would have just made the characters a little bit better. But beyond that, the demo as a whole, I think it sets the game up well. I like the prologue. I'm interested to see how it plays out. With that said, now let's roll into the second half of the demo.
Sure.
The icon thing. So everything, I'm just gonna say everything up, other than the darkness problem, up until you get to fighting the chick, the Garuda chick, I think is really fine. Like, it feels like a good extension of what was at the start. I find it weird that you constantly have Donald and Goofy with you. I kind of expected this to be a more solo game, but I guess if you're always a 3-man party, it still works out. That's fine. It doesn't really bother me. The castle is an interesting place to explore. I feel like there are multiple paths in there. I'm not sure if that's true.
In the first bit, there is you could go up the stairs, or you can go down below. There is a split path there that you can go.
Okay.
And they both
Didn't
take
know
you
that.
to the same place. They both take you to the
That's
same
fine.
place where the first ninja you fight is.
Okay, I mean, that's cool. I like that because I went through a door and I knew there was another hallway to go down. And I just went through it and just kind of kept going. And I like that. I think having a not an open design, but an options, I think that's cool. It means exploring in any secondary playthroughs, you find new stuff. It makes it fun. I think the gameplay overall there still shines really well. I like the new abilities they added. Other than my controller problems, I think switching between abilities and knowing when they're up, extremely fluid. They did a great job with it. Gameplay as a whole feels fundamentally well designed, if not just a little bit too easy.
Yeah.
I did unequip all the specialty rings and stuff that give you like the helping. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like it needed to be there. I actually feel like the game is I'm not gonna say incredibly easy, but I do feel as though the game is easy as it stands.
Oh yeah, by nature of what we said before, like the dance between two people instead of being mobbed down.
I
by
wish
5.
Final Fantasy mode was just there from the start. And I could just play that because I feel like it's going to be a more engaging adventure for me when I do it.
So,
now
I'll caveat the Final Fantasy mode or whatever. The Final Fantasy mode isn't actually just a harder difficulty. It changes things you fight as well.
Yeah, and it's supposed to change. Like, does it change the story any, or do we know?
No, I don't think it changes the story at all.
Okay,
but it replaces enemies. It replaces certain enemies you fight in the game with harder enemies. So like, there's an enemy you fight with that is just a guy with like a big axe or whatever. But in place of him in Final Fantasy mode, it's an Iron Giant.
Okay, I like it. I do think that the game's going to be worth playing twice if you're interested in like just the combat. And I think that's a good thing. Then, I like it. Good idea. It probably could have been there from the start, but it's fine. It's fine how it is. I'll give it a pass. My problem is once you get to the fight once you and Sid get to Garuda Chick. All right, the game has been incredibly grounded up until this point. Like everything has weight to it. Every cast of fire burns people. Every attack when it lands, it looks like it does a lot of real life damage to people. Sid gets thrown to a statue, crushed, and is just laying there like, God, Thursdays suck. I'm gonna just lay here for a second. You start literally laying into her, and it's like all this violence, like massive amounts of attacks and violence, and it's starting to feel a little less grounded, almost anime-esque.
I mean, you're literally fighting gods.
I know, but like okay. I'm gonna hit you with this. All right, all right. So Sid might have the powers of a god, which maybe getting thrown across a room at 30 miles an hour into a statue and it hitting him, probably could live through that, right? Your dog gets literally bitch kicked like 30 or 40 feet around, smashed on the ground and hit with a bunch of stuff. Gets back up, does it again. It happens to it again, and it just stands back up like, yeah, let's keep fighting, bro. And it's like, is the dog made of vibranium? What happened to the really grounded stuff?
I'll give you the dog stuff. I
can understand like some people might be powerful gods, but the dog is literally like, are you secretly Wolverine? Where'd you get the regeneration?
Yeah, there is a side quest for Torgal or whatever. There is Torgal side quest. So like maybe he's like found out to be some like fucking like dire wolf or something like that.
Well, first of all, he's not a dog; he is a wolf. But
he is a wolf. Yeah,
Zeke is correct. he does get killed by anyone else's standards and jumps back in for round 2.
Twice.
Yeah,
Twice. I don't remember the second time.
I think he gets. I know the first. Well, she just throws him off the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess.
She definitely messes him up the first time. This is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I don't. I like. Again, it's like where the grounding stops, and I get that they're supposed to be like demigods fighting each other, but it feels like everything that was super grounded just starts going out the window, and the dog is like, It might be a bad metric to hold the game by. But I feel like if you're going to do really grounded, hardcore stuff of like, people getting beheaded in violence, people burning up when, like it gets some because of all the fire, kind of needs to carry over into the gameplay in some way.
See, I disagree with that. Because I don't think you want realism in the gameplay. I think that would be a big mistake.
I'm not saying...
If you're not making Dragon's Dogma. I think Dragon's Dogma might be...
I think they could give lore reasons why. Because, Because, you could have people that are, magically protected or something. Even the normal soldiers. It takes, you have to stand there and fight them normally. If you're just Ifrit out, use your limit break or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't insta-kill them. They're still just taking chip damage, basically. It's more damage, but it's not like they instantly die. And I think that it kind of, in terms of, realism and not, I think there should be some reason why they're not instantly dying. It's a contrast. It's a contradiction between gameplay and storytelling, and tons of games suffer from it. I'm not going to pretend they don't.
I don't think you can tell the story they're telling and have that. I think either
I'm not
you
saying
tell
that they
the
can.
story...
I'm just saying I think it's fair criticism because I don't like it.
Well, then
it bothers me.
Is it fair criticism if it's biased like that?
Hold on, because there are games that can do it, and I know it's not what they want to do, but I think that even just a bullshit reason. I take bullshit, like the soldiers wear magic charms that help prevent them from taking the damage that you're doing or whatever.
Sure.
That's fine. Just give me a bullshit reason. I'll take a cop-out over it just being... It's just because of the gameplay, bro.
I'll be honest. I just don't think we're that powerful. Until we are Ifrit. I don't think Clive's...
I think he is substantially stronger than everyone else around him by such a large margin. It's not funny.
Sure, and I think that's reflected in the fact that we can take about 1,000 hits and they can't.
Yeah. It's you know what I mean? It's not necessarily a problem. I just don't like it as a whole. It's not gameplay breaking. It's nothing. I prefer there to be at least some grounding for it, because if they want to do grounded, try to ground everything.
Now, I can't say this is the case, but if you need something to think about, the dominants are not unknown figures, and they are used in war. I don't know this for a fact yet. I don't think it's unreasonable to say there is probably some anti-magic nonsense going on with the armor.
That's fine. It's not like gameplay breaking for me. I've just never liked things that try to be really grounded and then have this weird gameplay of they're tanking a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I'm gonna move on to the Garuda fight, and I'm gonna bring up two things:
the Garuda or the mini boss.
The real Garuda.
The real Garuda.
Okay. The Benedicta fight.
Yeah, the Benedicta fight. That fight is really good, and I think it also. Okay, so I didn't know what limit break was. I'm not gonna level with you two. I didn't know what the limit break button was. I just knew that I had it and I hadn't needed to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got really low during the fight, I finally popped it about phase 3 just to see what the heck it does.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that's how you're supposed to heal and do all this stuff. I just didn't know. And I think that if I had been using it more, I would not have this complaint. Because I felt like maybe some enemies were a little too tanky. Because when I was fighting her, it felt like it was taking forever to fight her. I was perfect dodging a lot. I was getting a lot of damage, and I downed her twice out of my own merit. And I was just she was still half health. I'm like, this has been a 10-minute boss fight. It's kind of ridiculous.
She regains HP after you get it down the first bar.
Okay.
So, when you start the battle, you go from 100 to 0 on her first bar. And then after that first cinematic,
I'm specifically talking about the second half. The first one was very easy. The second one, where she's flying around doing stuff, took significantly longer. And I think that's because I wasn't using limit break. I feel like
I don't think that's the case. I mean, maybe I also didn't use it much, but I have the background of playing a bunch of character action games, so I didn't see it as much of a problem. But I
feel
don't
like
think that Limit Break's going to make it faster. So I think if you have a problem with the length, that is genuinely just a problem with the game for you.
I don't feel so. That might be true. I don't think that the problem is. I feel like it almost feels like rinse repeat. Like there's not enough new mechanics getting added
I
in for the
100%
length of the
agree.
fight. That's
Yeah.
that's my issue. It feels like there's not enough going on to justify it.
Yeah, this is where it feels like where it feels like 14 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wish, and this is going to go back to the active time things during the cinematic moments. So, God of War 3 was a really good game, a really good action game.
Yeah,
and you know what happened when you had those cinematic
games from that point on?
Yeah, you know what happened during those cinematic moments in between you're fighting a boss? It changes the fight dramatically. So, like, you already have, like, beheadings, violence, people burning alive. Why couldn't Clive, when, during one of those cinematic things, like maybe at the 50% mark, right? He goes up there and he, like, cuts her fucking wing off or something. Like, something ultra violent, something very impactful. It changes how the fight has to play now.
You explained it. You literally just explained it. You're not aware you did, but you did.
Okay.
This is Final Fantasy. I recognize this is an M-rated game.
There is literally a scene of a child being splattered with his father's blood after being beheaded, and a man burning alive, and you see his flesh peel off and his skeleton appear.
Sure. Well,
it's wrong for you to just cut a wing off.
And knowing what happens next, you're going to get your wish. But, I mean, the player was not in control of either one of those actions.
I get that, but I feel like if you're going to go for this direction, go all in.
No, absolutely
push for it, because I do know a few spoilers for the game because I've read them after the fact of having played the demo. And like cutting her wing off, I'm not going to say them out of respect for you and anyone listening, but cutting her wing off would be so goddamn tame compared to some of the stuff that's going to happen in the story.
Oh, for sure, and I'm aware of this, but I can understand why, as like Final Fantasy,
it doesn't even have to be bloody. Like it could just be magic, Like
I'm aware, and they would probably they probably cut off. It would just probably be a green glowing thing there. It's clearly not something they're good with, at least in that moment. I might be wrong. It might be in the next scene we like lop off heads ourselves and there's blood everywhere. But I don't think, even with as brutal as this game is, they want the player engaging with that kind of brutality because it's technically not on brand for them. This is not God of War. This isn't even Devil May Cry, despite its combat.
I mean, it is, but it's not
exactly. Despite its combat director being that, there are certain things where you can be visceral and violent, but if that's not your brand, maybe the player shouldn't indulge in that. Now, I don't care. I freaking love God of War. I freaking love Devil May Cry. But this is me attempting to try to see where the devs were going with this.
I will agree with that. And maybe it is too much for what they want to do and what they're trying to target. At the same time, I feel like it's a missed opportunity because it doesn't even have to be violent. It could be forced phase transitions. Like, let's say you do really well and you break the boss 2 or 3 times and then it triggers a special one and it changes the fight. Something like that. Because I feel like other than that, they're just there to give you a free downstate with a cool cinematic. And they don't add a lot to the gameplay otherwise. Correct. As being cool, they're cool. As being any kind of tool for gameplay or to furthering like what's going on around you, they don't do a lot, and I think that's a missed opportunity.
It does serve as a point where mechanics change because each section that you do that in, she gets
more and more desperate.
Yeah, she does more different moves after that because like in the third phase she starts going all out with her fucking talons.
That is one thing because I wanted to see what happened. I let myself die during that fight because I just wanted to know what would happen.
Oh, die!
It checkpoints you.
Oh yeah, it does. It does checkpoint.
I don't like that. Yeah. I know again, it's for casuals, it's to make it easier for people. Don't checkpoint me, please. I would just
where did it checkpoint you, and B, what would
the last time I phase transitioned?
It checkpoints you at phase.
It fully resets you. It fully resets you with full potions too.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
I think
Again,
I think that's a first play only
yeah.
thing.
But again, I think that it lessens the first playthrough because I like the idea of having to experience a boss, go through, learn the mechanics, and then beat it in one fell swoop.
This part of the game's also very early in the game. The stuff that you have fighting Garuda, you will not have when you fight her in the actual game.
Yeah, I know.
Something else to consider, and this is again, I'm doing a lot of defense for devs that I mean, I don't really need to. I don't think. Also, remember, its target audience does not play action games.
I get that, but that's why I'm also advocating for why isn't the hard mode just there? Because you can defend it all you want, and other than just trying to pad out, you get to play the game twice to have a more enjoyable experience. Because that's how I view it. I don't see a reason why it can't just be there. Because it might feel cheap to people who don't want to play on it, but it's not Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2 where you have to, you finally unlock Proud mode and it's like, oh cool, I get to play a harder version of the game I just spent 100 hours on. It's not like that anymore. I don't know anybody that wants to play 100 hours of a game anymore to then say, okay, I can go play the hard mode now. I can play like the challenge version.
I think the thing that they just want to force people into like doing the story first, and then focus on like how you extending your enjoyment of the gameplay.
But to me, at least to me, I prefer being a challenge when I'm playing it. That way, I can like experience the story, and I get the opportunity of just taking longer because hey, maybe I'm not winning as much. Maybe I have to replay a section or two. I think that's better.
And that might change later on in the actual game. You might actually run into some actual challenging bits.
I mean, that's fair. Again, I'm just saying from what I've experienced, not my favorite way of doing it.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong.
Like I said, I'm running a lot of defense. I think your points are valid. But I've just gotten so accustomed to this being the way it's like, yeah, this is what I expect. I expect to have to play through this game 2, maybe 3 times to get the full experience.
And I don't discredit that level of design. I just think it's, and I'm normally not one to say it. I feel as though it's outdated because I think, unironically, I understand why they would want an easy and a hard mode. Because they don't want the Dark Souls problem of, well, it's inaccessible to literally everybody except for people that want to play the game. Right? Because there might be people that just want to play it because it's a Final Fantasy game, and they're not going to want to play it super hard. Maybe people want to play it just because it's, my favorite streamer said it's good, but, I'm bad at the game, so I don't want to play it anymore. I think what they've done is fantastic, but I much prefer the idea of a game just having no difficulty, and it's just like, learn the gameplay, play by our rules. If you don't like it, just turn the game off, go play something else. Because I think having a set difficulty for the world around you and how the game is experienced is just better than a game swapping things around, trying to do all this mismatching stuff to create a more enjoyable experience for people of different skill levels rather than just setting a standard for what's there. Like, give me a complete vision rather than difficulty based on something having more HP or you just not having as many resources.
I think we're getting a complete vision. I
do think we are getting a complete vision. I just don't like the idea of the split difficulty and it just not being accessible. That's the only thing. Because with everything I've said now, because since I'm kind of like at the end here, I think that the gameplay is phenomenal. I think the story is interesting, and I'd like to see more of it. I don't find everything to be super compelling. Right. And I feel like I think I need to see more of the world, because other than, the summons, the demigods, they're there, but they're just characters. I don't feel like the world feels super Final Fantasy yet. I felt it felt pretty good when like the Marlboro shows up and I'm like, oh god, it's one of those things. That's cool. I think the world just needs to feel more complete for me, because right now it just feels like a fantasy game that just has Final Fantasy characters in it, rather than being a Final Fantasy game. And I think that will change as I go through like a first playthrough.
Right.
But overall, my thoughts on the demo, the game, I think it's On a scale of 1 to 10, to me, is dead on a 5 right now. I do not think it is bad. I do not think it's good. I think it is incredibly middle ground, with it being like, it's good, but I don't have any sway in either direction of it being great or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where I'm at with it.
Okay.
But I am excited to play the final version when it comes out.
This is Thursday, so.
Yep. I mean, I think by and large, even with my playing unnecessary defense, I think you have a very fair and accurate read on the game thus far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm glad some people think that. Normally, people think I'm extremely biased.
No, I think you've set your expectations at a level of where you can probably not get like extremely disappointed, but you can be
impressed still.
Impressed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because having played it, the game, my biggest fears before I even did it were I didn't know if the gameplay was going to be good, but I held hope for the gameplay being good because of who's doing it.
Yeah.
And they were met. Like, my expectations for that were met. I think it's just perfectly neutral right now. And I'm just gonna have to wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think it also shows how much work they actually put into the gameplay, because they not only had Ryota Suzuki, the guy that did Devil May Cry 5, do it, but they have developed parts of that game, outsourcing some of it to the Kingdom Hearts team and to Platinum as well. The two other big like action companies out there right now. So
yep, that does not surprise. Honestly, if I found out that all the icon fights were done by Platinum, it would not shock me a single bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about like the rail shooting aspect, if that was done by like Kingdom Hearts, because I mean half of the Kingdom Hearts games they have rail shootings. So
I hate the gummy ship so much.
Yeah.
Gummy ship is the best part of the game, honestly.
God.
All right, so Zeke, you kind of ended that point at a very good time. We played 16, we played Honkai Star Rail, we've been playing Diablo 4.
I have played nothing new this week.
Yeah, me either. So that's
Actually, that's a lie, except for the one thing that we're going to jump into very soon. Hey guys, don't forget to sub to the channel if you're into what you're hearing. While you're down there, remember to like the video as much as we like you. You'll be good now.
Oh yeah. So the topic of this episode is, I guess, the state of not action RPGs, but like isometric action RPGs. Because I mean, we just got done talking about 5 to 16, and that's technically an action RPG. But specifically stuff like Diablo, Path of Exile. Honestly, those are the only two I can actually think of. I mean, I guess isn't Divinity Original Sin kind of an action RPG?
No, that's more of it's kind of turn-based.
Oh, it's isometric turn.
It is isometric.
Yeah.
It is an isometric RPG, but it's not necessarily an action RPG in that same vein.
There's always Minecraft Dungeons.
That is technically an action RPG by all standards. Lost Ark also kind of fits the same category.
Yeah, true, yeah.
There are actually a lot more games in this genre. They just don't get a lot of spotlights.
It's true. And to get off the isometric for a second, other games that fall into this, like, let's think of anything that's Borderlands adjacent.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
shout out to anyone who still plays Ragnarok, by the way.
Yeah, so Zeke came to us the other like last week and was like, you guys need to have me on, we can talk about action RPGs, because you have an opinion on these things going forward. You've been playing Diablo 4 like the rest of us has, and you've had good things to say about it.
Yep. So starting with Diablo 4, it is the new kid on the block. It's very popular. I'm currently level, I want to say 70.
You're like 74, I think. I think you're 74.
76 maybe. I've gotten a good couple levels the past few days. Okay. Diablo 4 impressed me a lot. When it was first announced, I was not prepared at all for it to actually be good.
Nobody
Blizzard,
does, I don't think.
I don't think anybody believes in Blizzard. And if you do, good on you, I guess. I don't think anybody believed after Diablo 3 the game could be anything more other than flashing light simulator.
I wonder about that. Didn't Diablo Immortal play really well? It was just absolutely hamstrung by like the Blizzard greed.
It
Like this one I didn't play. I can't say.
It's meandering because it's not bad, but it plays almost exactly like Diablo 3. It is almost a 1-to-1 clone.
Oh wow, okay. That's interesting.
But it runs really well on phones. It actually was a fairly fun game from what I understand. I never touched it. I'm just not interested in mobile games to begin with normally.
Fair.
And it is a game that was specifically made for whales in certain countries to deeply enjoy and throw their money at. Because I know in America, like you might find some people that do it.
Right?
More than that. You're hitting the low end. That game might have actually been one of Blizzard's best selling.
No, I meant it took $10,000 for you to upgrade your stuff pool.
Maybe. I think that's before like even season 1 or any of the upgrades that they had asked her. The game is ridiculously expensive to play, and it was just straight up bad. With that said, moving on to it, Diablo 4 shattered every expectation I had for it by such a large margin. I am incredibly impressed. I think the way that the game starts from being very simple, very slow, up till level 50, I found the game to give a good amount of challenge while not being incredibly easy. You're basically allowed to use whatever build skills or things you want without being punished, and it's a great way to get through the campaign without feeling incredibly simple, but without making it too difficult. I think they struck the right chord with it, and in terms of difficulty and scaling from like 1 to 50, the game is perfect, and I cannot emphasize that enough. The game itself from like 1 to 50 is a perfect ARPG for people that maybe want something a little bit slower. They just want to run around. They want to just use skills. It is definitely slow. I know a large complaint about it from some people. I don't know who. It's not Diablo 3. Because it is just that slow, and some people don't like that. The biggest complaints I heard, at least from, I'm going to say 1 to 50, because I think after 50 the game changes a lot, is the game is not Diablo 2, the game is not Diablo 3, and the game is not Path of Exile.
Yeah.
Now, if you get rid of all 3 of those expectations, the game is very well-paced. Scaling, itemization, finding new gear, finding legendaries, just kind of like going through the motions is very fun, very rewarding, and you aren't showered in things or money super fast. It feels like you are scaling, and everything just kind of keeps pace with you extremely well throughout the world.
I feel that.
Now, yeah. So what I know you guys aren't 50 yet, but what are your thoughts on the game? You know, like the early stages.
I'm 48, and I think I'm in Act 6. I think, or just getting into Act 6.
Yeah, you're right near the end.
I honestly, it definitely feels a lot better than Diablo 3. And I like Diablo 3 at the start. I think the story, like the just playing through Diablo 3 the first time, and then including Reaper of Souls or whatever, I think that was a very enjoyable experience. It's only after when you start doing like more than like 2 or 3 seasons that it just kind of gets like what's the point of even playing? Diablo 4, on the other hand, I enjoy what they did with the map. It's all one gigantic map. And you have a bunch of teleporting points to go everywhere. Everything feels, as like you said with 16, feels very cohesive. Nothing changes too much going from map to map, but going from like area to area, but like it does feel like they're connected, and there is like major differences in each area. There's the density of the map actually is ridiculous. Honestly, there's a lot of like things to fight. It is not empty at all.
Yep.
There are events that happen like literally right next to each other sometimes. And I haven't the only world boss I fought was during the beta, so I haven't been able to like actually like attempt any of that stuff yet. I feel the difficulty is pretty good. I knock it down to world tier 1 because I also agree with you like in the beginning that when you're going through up to level 50, there's no point in doing a world tier 2.
Yep.
So
that is one of the points that I think is bad. I think the world tier scaling is a little off. Because I feel like World Tier 2 is specifically there to be people that like, I want more of a challenge. I want the game to be harder to be able to play it, but I don't think you get enough reward for it. But it's kind of like just a bad middle ground, because as soon as you get to World Tier 3, the rewards and things like how you're progressing just feel so much better. But other than that one caveat, I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah. And when I play with Dollet and the others, we're up on World Tier 2 because we're all together, and like while the scaling does get like pretty big when it comes to like playing with other people or whatever, it doesn't feel like it's actually any really bit as harder as it was if we were playing on World Tier 1, honestly.
Yep. I think if you're in like a full party, the world scaling feels better when you're doing something even remotely challenging. But I think with just one other person, when you go up to that slightly higher world tier, you can definitely feel the difference. Because I think, because it also scales to have like a larger party. I don't think it scales the party between 1 to 3 extra players. I think if you have just one other person, it still scales like there's like 4 people in the party. I can't confirm that.
That makes sense because when playing with Eli, like bosses did feel like they had a
almost 4 times the HP.
Yeah,
right?
almost 4 times the HP when just playing with just me and him. While when playing with like Dollet or one of our friends Matt, bosses and other enemies, they go down probably around the same time as it takes like me solo for it to go down.
Well, I'm gonna have a series of really bad takes.
Oh,
right.
Here we go.
I'm ready to hear it.
All right. Bad take number 1, probably the worst take I have. Diablo 3 wasn't that bad. Y'all need to chill.
No. I don't think Diablo 3 from a gameplay or like basic story going through it the first time standpoint was bad. I think the way that they progressed the game from after that with the seasons or whatever, I think it got very convoluted and there was like no reason to play.
Okay, bad take number 2. I have this first take because I just don't deal with Diablo past, like the first initial bit. I've beaten Diablo 3, I've beaten the DLC, and I have technically beaten Diablo 2.
Okay.
I plan on getting through Diablo 4. 4 is probably the furthest I'm ever going to go because I'm going to actually deal with like the first few seasons. But I don't think that this is a marked, like, amazing leap forward. I think Diablo 4 is a better game on all fronts, but I think it's more incremental than people are letting on because of the hate they have for Diablo 3.
So, I'm going to say this. My problem with Diablo 3 does not stem from what it is. I did not like Diablo 3's campaign. I'm going to be very upfront.
I should be upfront. I wasn't so much talking about you two. I'm thinking in general. But yes, please continue.
Diablo 3's base campaign is horrible. I think the storytelling is bad. I think, especially since the game by default doesn't even let you do like a custom build. You have to go into the options and check the box that says, yes, I want to use any skill in any slot. Makes it very confusing because when I went through my first clear, I didn't know I could use any skill in any slot I wanted to because the game physically would not let me.
True. Okay, that's
a game does not need to be that handholdy. I think Reaper of Souls, when that came around, I also think Diablo 3 as a base was incredibly easy.
Yeah, probably, but I also think 4 is not that hard.
All right.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yep. So I think Reaper of Souls as storytelling and world building and design fundamentally made Diablo 3 a significantly better game beyond the fact it's what added in rifts and basically the whole in-game as people know it now.
I would agree.
And I think Reaper of Souls was very good. I think Mathiel was a great character. Overall, Reaper of Souls is great. My problem with Diablo 3 Seasons, because John brought that up, it's not that I think that they're too repetitive. It's that what they're adding in doesn't stay with the game. There's like temporary boosts, and it's normally the shiny thing is better.
Yeah,
new shiny thing just better, and I think that that's boring. They've said they're not going to be doing that with Diablo 4. I don't know yet on that, but I think if any game just for a seasonal piece of content is new shiny thing better, you're not in the right game. Like it's not fun. I've never seen a game that's just like as casual of this season's rewards are we're adding an extra loot golems to spawning. Like it's the season of like just they're everywhere. It's not fun. That's like loot explosions are fun, but I think games that shower you in pointless loot constantly are nowhere near as fun as games where you're looking for something of like just a big upgrade. Like at one piece that'll like define a build or make something like new you can explore.
Mm-hmm.
I think and that's like a lot of what Diablo 3 was. There was just it's like green arrow up, upgrade. Stat prioritization, design, a lot of the mechanics of building a character don't matter. And that's where all of my problems stem from Diablo 3 is it doesn't feel like you're building a character. It feels like you're just looking for number go up.
But hear me out, and this isn't strictly speaking true, and I have a funny feeling I'll know what the defense is. But isn't this true of games like Destiny and Borderlands? And I don't play PoE, so I can't say.
Okay, so if we're gonna start going down this route right now,
well, it's just because those are the other games that I actually
this is a good example. So to clarify this before I start making statements and people won't call me out, which I have 933 hours in Path of Exile. I have probably closer to 800, even though I didn't play it all on Steam. I have 724 hours on Destiny 2. I have over 30 hours in Last Epoch, which is another fairly good ARPG. And in Path of Exile, number go up is not necessarily true. Because in that game, you don't have as much as like baseline of like numbers that are just better. You really have to think about, is this stat what I need for the build? Because there are strong breakpoints in that game. The difference between having 99% crit chance and 100% crit chance makes or breaks some builds. Cast speed also is a massive thing. Mana regen is a massive stat you need for most builds. There are tons of things in that game where it's not just like, you can find just straight upgrade for a while, but eventually you will need to find things that actually give you benefits and the ability to actually use the pieces you need. Because another thing with Path of Exile is skills aren't just given to you, they're on gems. For the gems to work, you have to put them in your gear. Mm-hmm. For gems to interact with each other, those slots in the gear have to be linked. So you need to find a piece of gear that has the perfect stat roll, like the stat rolls you want. You have to then make sure it has 6 sockets to put in as many gems as you can, and then you have to make sure they are all linked. There's a lot of layers to PoE's progression that is very, almost convoluted in some sense, but it's definitely never just hits green number better.
Okay.
Destiny, in terms of gearing, it does have a problem with eye level and chasing a hamster wheel almost of, I just need to get to the eye level. I just need a new eye level. I just need a new eye level. I just need a new eye level. But stat priority on gear actually matters a lot now. So just finding a piece of gear with the right stat priority is very important.
But isn't that still number goes up?
You could say that. Okay. So number needs to go up, but it needs to have proper stat priority. So you can get a piece of gear that might be the highest eye level possible, but until you get that one that has, like, let's say a 10 resilience roll, right? Like, let's say you just want the armor.
Yeah.
Until you find the one that has the perfect stat priority on that, you're not going to have a perfect character. I mean, you're always looking for like incrementally better steps up for that piece of gear.
But once again,
there's more to it now.
Okay.
They've changed the mod system, so you have to.
Thank God, by the way.
Yep. You have to find mods that you need, and then you're making builds of that. You also need exotic pieces of gear, which are one-ofs, that you're going to have to try to slot into your builds, meaning you're going to be replacing different pieces at different times. You might not have the one you need that gives you the stat roll that you need, because some builds you might need to have a really fast melee cooldown. You might need to have a really fast grenade cooldown. At the same time, you need to have like a really high resilience or recovery. You're constantly looking for, you're looking for a number go up, but the numbers can only, I think it's a stat of 60 points are divvied up between all, I think, 6 stats.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to get a perfect roll on 2 of those numbers normally.
Sure.
So there's a lot that goes into just finding a number go up, because once you start hitting a point where like you're hitting near perfect rolls on things in terms of just numbers, they have to be in the right categories, and you can't just change them around.
Cool. Now I'm going to be a bit of a bastard.
Okay.
Was any of this true the first 3 weeks of either of those games' life cycle?
Path of Exile, yeah. Path of Exile has always been a very hard, oppressive game. Incredibly hard, incredibly oppressive, and its fundamental core has always been you look for gear, you look to stock at the gyms, you look to link them together, you try to be as strong as possible.
Cool.
It did used to be a much slower game, but it has definitely always had like that design.
Path of Exile also resets every once in a while, doesn't it?
Path of Exile seasonally, like every, I'll say 4 months, starts a new season. Seasons of Path of Exile are not the same as like Destiny or Diablo. Basically, you go in and you make a new character. With that new character, as soon as you're not even 10 minutes into making that character, you can interact with a new mechanic. These mechanics are not small. I'll give you a couple examples of them. My favorite one has been Blight League. So each league gets a name, it gets a theme, it gets an idea. Blight League's idea was, we're going to put a tower defense game into Path of Exile. So there's just they made a whole different game mode to just play while going through the base game again. And it's not like half-assed, it's not something that they just threw together. A lot of thought and care was put into it. You get specific rewards for completing, the challenges as you go up through it. You get better gear for completing harder versions of it. And it's just another mechanic to get new or different gear. It's another way to play the game while you're still playing the base game of Path of Exile. And it doesn't interfere with it, because if you don't like the mechanic, you can choose to not engage with it at all, and it doesn't hurt you. Path of Exile, having been around for so long, which is something that's built upon itself a lot, gives you opportunities to pick what you want to do. Do you want to play tower defense? No. Well, maybe you just want to craft stuff. Well, you can put all of your focus into Harvest, which is just specifically for crafting gear. Maybe you don't want to do either of those things. You can do Legion. Legion and I forget the name of the other one, but it's like obelisks. You've gone into a map and you find like these 2 gigantic things, and you just start chain killing tons and tons of enemies as fast as possible. Like, you're just getting swarmed left and right. There's tons of different ways to just play the game. You don't even have to, like, after you get through the base campaign, you don't even have to interact with killing another normal enemy again. You can just make a character that's specifically good at killing bosses. You run to the boss at the end of the map, you kill it, and then that's your reward. You don't have to worry about actually killing any normal enemies. You can make characters that are very bad at killing bosses and just go farm maps all day, every day. Maps are similar to rifts in Diablo. They're kind of semi-randomly generated, and take on a theme of like a zone you've gone through before. And they generally have modifiers on them. So like, if you want, like, let's say specifically focus on one thing, there's a skill tree that affects the maps, and you can just remove things you don't want to do from them. You don't want to see a certain boss type spawn, you don't want to see a certain mechanic happen, just get rid of them. And it makes it more likely for the other mechanics to happen that you do enjoy.
Right, that sounds spectacular.
Yeah. The game is fundamentally designed around, you're not just playing Path of Exile with a bunch of small little mechanics thrown around you. You're playing the game you want to play, and you just tailor make it to how you want to play it. And that's one thing that they've done really well. Destiny is not the same way. They don't have that same level of They just make a new thing once, every couple months. You play it, and then it goes away. You lose the seasonal content, and it's gone. Path of Exiles, at the end, even Diablos, it just goes away at the end normally. Path of Exiles, if it was well received and it fits into like where they want the game to be going, they add into the game. So next time when the new season rolls around, if you don't like the new season mechanic, but you like the last one, you can just go play it again. It's there. It's at the end game waiting for you. The game is constantly expanding upon itself to create a better and better experience. So green number goes up is not a problem in Path of Exile. But we were talking about Diablo 4, I think.
Yeah. I was trying to compare it to other games in its vicinity because I think it's pretty similar to most. Unfortunately, I have zero, not at all, any background in Path of Exile, but I find it to be pretty comparable. At least where we are again. I'm not even to 50. My game hasn't even really begun for me yet.
Yep.
I find it directly comparable to Borderlands and Destiny. And to, I'll leave those alone for right now. Because these are the ones that I know the best.
I do think that before 50, you might be right that the game is very basic. As soon as you get to 50, like almost 46 on, the game dramatically takes a shift.
Yes, and this is what I was expecting to hear.
It definitely becomes harder, I think, at 50 going into World Tier 3. World Tier 3 is basically enemies' stats are doubled. But you get 100% more of everything. So 100% more gold, 100% more XP. It's a big shift, and the game becomes substantially more challenging. It's also where a lot of builds will start coming online, where you'll actually have like things like, I need this piece of gear in order to enable this to happen, and it's where you start really seeing the game begin. It's also where you unlock the Paragon board, which is where you actually get to start making your character, basically. Up until then, I don't think stat priority or things really have any impact on what you're doing. And it can be green number better. Like, green arrow, better numbers, just better for putting it on. But after 50, you definitely get a sense of like, I need this, I want this. I need to be progressing my character to become stronger in a way of how I want to play. And it's really where the game starts and begins to take off.
Yeah, it's about what I would expect. Like, and I've said this the same way to everyone. Like, I'm not at 50. The game hasn't even really begun for me.
Yep.
Which, on one hand, I understand why this is the way it is. I hate that games do this, where leveling just feels after the fact. It feels like that wasn't even really part of how I'm supposed to experience this game. But
so,
I guess it's to separate the story from the grind.
With that said, I actually think that the story being a little bit easier, because you find the game to be pretty easy, don't you?
I do, even on my own. I find World Tier 2 to be just fine.
There are people that actually think the game is incredibly hard.
The game is surprising. I don't think it's incredibly hard either.
I think if you're just paying attention even remotely, the game's not that hard. Okay. But I also think that there are a lot of people who don't play games, 2 or 3 times a week.
I mean, this is certainly true. Yeah,
10 or 20 hours. There are a lot of people who are just picking up the game. Like, this is their first Diablo. The campaign, 1 to 50, being very accessible. It's almost like 16.
Yes, I would
they've
agree.
made it accessible so that way people can go through and experience the story, and then things are going to pick up. Now, after 50, I do think the game genuinely changes into being a much better game. Mm-hmm. It is definitely a little too grind heavy right now. At level 85, you've only reached 50% of the XP globally, like your total XP pool you will ever get, that you need to reach level 100. Those last 25 levels are equivalent to every level before 85 in terms of XP you need. And it's kind of crazy. I'm sorry, 15 levels. It's kind of crazy. Now, the thing is, with the way the game is right now, it is not... There is nothing to really do at 100 other than one really hard boss. You can still run around, you can look for things, you can keep trying to progress your character a little bit more. But basically, at around 60 to 70, once you hit World Tier 4 and you've gotten the highest eye level of gear, you're looking for incremental bonuses or quality of life for most builds. And that's where the game kind of is. You're playing it at some point because you want the challenge of playing it. You find the game to be fun. Not because, okay, as soon as I get to 100, that's where the game starts. It's not like a traditional MMO or many other games in the genre where you have to hit max level to start like really playing it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a good decision.
I agree. I don't think the game should ever start when you're essentially finished with your character.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think where the game is now isn't a good place, and it's really going to come down to, at least for Diablo 4, how well they implement seasons and work around it.
Yeah.
The developers are doing a great job so far. Specifically, the D4 team are doing a great job of making sure things kind of stay in a balance range. They really do want everything to be viable. Most characters, like the archetypes like Rogue, Barbarian, Sorcerer, Necro, are all super close to each other at in-game, like the very end, in terms of damage, clear speeds, things like that.
Enjoying the video? Remember to like and sub. Helps out the channel a bunch, and we're grateful for everyone we get.
So you're not really disadvantaged or incentivized to be playing, the number one best class at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a really good job with that. Any thoughts? Any questions even?
As somebody that I'm with Dollet on this one. Like, I've only played D3. I've never played D2, though I've considered getting resurrected. At maybe some point in time. And I played Borderlands 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And
I would count those as ARPGs, honestly.
Yeah, like that, I have a hard time like separating because I feel like they fit more into that than a lot of other categories.
They really do.
They're just first-person ARPG.
Pretty much.
Hot take. Warframe is basically just another ARPG as well.
I could see that, actually, honestly.
I know a lot of people consider a looter shooter, air quotes, but I don't think that.
But the real question is a looter shooter not just the same thing but with guns?
Yeah.
To some degree, probably. Yeah, probably to some degree.
It's why like I could be naming a bunch of other like actual traditional ARPG titles, but like my brain just defaults to, do you know what I go to first? I go to Borderlands and I go to Destiny, because these are the two games where I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
But with guns.
Yep. And as gone.
I was just gonna say, like, Diablo 4, my opinion on it is from one that didn't spend any money on it, because somebody bought me the game.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we should probably make that clear. Neither Aqua nor myself bought this game.
Okay. I technically bought this game because I bought it for $1.
Yeah, like, so our initial takes are both based on a game that we didn't buy for ourselves at the time.
Okay.
Aqua's not bought it for me. But...
And as to make this clear, I did buy the game for myself. I was not expecting to like it at all. I was buying it because I had people that wanted me to play it with them.
Sure.
So I was just buying it for friendship. I have actually bought it for 2 other people now, and I'm getting ready to buy it for a 3rd. Because I genuinely think that it's a fun game, and if people want to play it, they should. Because I think it is that enjoyable of an experience once you kind of like get up there.
And that's half the reason I bought it for Dollet. Not necessarily for me to play with him, but we have another friend that plays Diablo, and then we have other people that will probably play Diablo. I'm kind of with Dollet on this one. I don't know. It depends on how many hours I actually put into this game or whatever, that I can actually justify like full price tags for stuff. Even though I'm the guy that buys pretty much every single game that I want to play or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my my thought on the game would be different if I actually bought it or whatever. But I'm enjoying it. But I'm enjoying it on the aspect of I didn't pay for the game, and I wasn't going to pay for the game. Even though I paid for it for Dollet. But he's buying my rolls in Honkai Star Rail.
It's true.
Next month though. So it's a trade off on this one. I do enjoy it. I enjoy it more than I enjoyed Diablo 3. But I'm also not at a point where I'm what's the word? I'm not at a point where I feel like I enjoy the character I'm playing as much as I enjoyed the character that I played in Diablo 3, because I don't know if Diablo 3 kind of ruined me, but Demon Hunter was honestly like one of the best fucking classes ever. And
it's fair.
But I'm currently playing Sorceress, so I mean,
yeah. I think one of the big differences because I know a lot of people are like, I wish the game was easier, I wish it was more accessible like D3 was. I think people are looking at it from a perspective of, I just want to be powerful and I just want to go through.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think when you make games like that, where there's like, I don't think you don't get to be powerful, and I think you get to a point where you are very powerful, where you are going through. I just think you have to actually try a bit harder. And I think that's a better way of doing it than what D3 did. Because I think because one of the things with D3 is set gear was just incredibly powerful.
Yeah, there was no reason to not use set gear.
You basically cannot put builds together without, there were just no builds. You were using a set, and that you just used one skill, and that was the game. You get that. You don't get that in D4, and I think that the game being slower at the start, at least until you finish the story, is slightly off-putting to a lot of people, probably for the reason you just said, because it doesn't feel like you're getting anything. It just kind of feels like the game's kind of keeping you at this power level. And with the way world scaling and things work, you don't ever get to a point where you're feeling significantly stronger until I think you hit about level 60. And that's when you'll probably have like a full build. You'll have a full gear set of like what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the game really starts to feel like its own thing. Because, at least to me, I enjoy the idea of having worked through the levels, gotten to a point where I'm stronger, and now I have like this big thing going on where I am just super strong, and I'm looking to I'm even stronger, going super fast, killing things at basically the speed of light. Almost similar to how D3 was at this point.
Yeah.
But I had to actually work to get there rather than the game telling me, here's your set, go have fun.
I think that's fair. I did obviously purchase Diablo 3 with the Reaper of Souls stuff, so I purchased it long after the fact, after all the quality of life stuff, and I was playing it super casually. I just popped on my Crusader, which, man, I'll be honest, that's my only gripe with Diablo 4, is I do wish Paladin and Crusader were in it.
So
they're coming. They're coming.
I'm sure.
It's not coming in the way you think. Supposedly, I believe they said they want to make the first class they add something new. So it's probably not going to be Crusader or Paladin. It's probably going to be something different.
Yeah, sure.
But with that same vein.
Yeah. But I mean, I played D3 pretty casually.
Yeah.
I don't think it's better than D4. I don't think it's worse, but I do think that D4 is a better game, and I do, and you brought it up, I do appreciate that I am not just chasing a set. Like, I am actually sitting down and looking at what I got and making sure that it's best for what I'm doing.
Yep. And I think that that's what is so compelling about the game, at least at higher levels, is you're looking at things and it's like, it's small, like, things, You might come, because the game's still new enough where I think people haven't completely figured everything out yet. And I think they're only going to add in more stuff to enable new builds, new synergies, new ways to play as the game goes on. And I think if it keeps at the same pace of, things are still hard, there's opportunity for me to die, but it's not like a point where I'm just dying or I'm killing them faster than they can kill me. I think the game stays in a good spot. Also, this might be a bit of a hot take, because I do think the game is very good. Like, I've really only sung its praises so far. The quality of life in D4 is very bad. Especially the higher levels you go up. I actually think the game gets substantially worse in terms of, like, just your day-to-day, moment-to-moment activities.
Really?
Yes.
How so?
So I'm going to start with, they've addressed some of this. So for the start, which I didn't realize when I began this adventure, gems do not go into a specific thing. They just fill up your inventory and they go to your, or you have to put them in a stash tab to hold on to them.
I agree immediately.
Okay. So I didn't think that that was a problem when I first started, because I was like, just buy more stash tabs. There are only 4 stash tabs.
You'll fill them all up.
You can fill all of them up, and you only get 4. They are linked between characters. You only get 4 stash tabs. There are 5 classes. You don't even have 1 stash tab for every class.
Mm.
That is bad.
Yeah.
Now,
especially when you're putting gems and aspects.
Yep.
Well.
Now, because that's everything. That's gems, aspects, your gear,
yeah,
any consumables, and nightmare dungeon sigils, which I'll get into in a moment. So you lose space very quickly. A lot of streamers, and some people, not even streamers, a lot of people who've been playing for a fair amount of time now, are having to make mules to just act as extra bank slots. In 2023, you have mule characters existing to have storage.
Imagine.
And characters don't even have that much inventory space.
Yep. It is an incredibly awful system. And I've thought about this, and it's one of 2 options. They've either specifically done this because they're planning to sell stash tabs later on, or they didn't have time to fully finish the system. And I'm going to offer 2 points here, okay? They've already said that gems in Season 2, which is going to be like 6 months out, unfortunately, give or take, are going to be getting into the resource tab, so they no longer take up any inventory whatsoever.
Which is how it should have been at the start, correct.
Exactly. And they're going to do quality of life for sigils, where right now, if you open a nightmare sigil, which is a very high-level dungeon, you have to open your map, mark it, go to the nearest teleporter, walk into the dungeon, and do it. You only get to do it 1 time, complete the dungeon, then you can leave, open up another sigil, and start again. It is very time-consuming. It's like Rifts, but you have to walk to them to start it. It is very time-consuming. There's also currently no way to sort these features. Like, you cannot just search for them. There's no search bar in game for your stash, your inventory, or anything. There is no affinity, so when you're throwing stuff into your stash tabs, it just go right into the one you're looking at, taking up the first slot. They have said they're working on all of this right now for Season 2. So, some people would say that, oh, this is stupid. They clearly just, the game's bad, right? How could they have not thought about they need to do this?
I don't think it makes the game bad for that.
The quality of life is extremely bad.
I just think it's
I don't even think it's oversight.
I don't. So yeah, I am actually on 6. I don't. This feels like a pretty egregious oversight if it is.
So I don't think it was an oversight.
No,
I know Blizzard claims that Diablo was in development for a long time. I don't think it was. I think when they showed the initial trailer at BlizzCon that year to save face, which is why they showed it. I think they made that trailer to save face because it was the year that a lot of things were going extremely bad for the company.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the worst year up until this one, where things were just like shit's hitting the fan. I think they made that trailer to announce that they were working on the game and had maybe been in pre-production for 6 months. Like, they had the general idea of what they wanted to do, and they had just started working on it. I think Diablo 4's team were told it's coming out now, and this is when we have to have it out, because we need something for this year to save face. We need something big. We need it done. It needs to be good. We need something to get our profits up. We need a game, and we need the game. And I think what they did is they spent all their time working on the gameplay feeling really good, making sure it's a very clean and good experience going through the story, completing the world, making like different builds, everything balanced out very well. I think they went hardcore and focused on making the game as fun as possible, and then are going to fix quality of life as they have time. Because I think the whole game plus season 1 has been done for a good while now. And they're just doing as many small quality of life and bug fixes and things that they can do to keep the game in a balanced state while beginning work on season 2 and the actual changes and quality of life that people need. That is my own personal view on it, because I don't think that if this game was meant to be like, they just chose to ignore all of this, right? And just go, oh, people don't need that. People don't care about that. You don't need a search function. What does it matter? If it was just that level of oversight, I don't think the game would be as fundamentally fun and well designed as it is.
I definitely see it. Like, I think that is a very real possibility. However, as someone coming from, as far as Blizzard games are concerned, not D3, but Overwatch, I have a slightly less favorable opinion on it. I genuinely just think it's monetization. I think Blizzard has put itself in a position where the games that are coming out aren't as frequent as they want, and they're starting to lose their mass appeal and their good name. So at this point, they put out a game that's good. Like, obviously the game is a good game. They've won back points that way. But now they're going to find a way to increase monetization, and in a way that I think many people, maybe not the people who will be playing the game the longest, but many people at the start won't notice. I think it's a fairly innocuous way to do it.
I think that is a fair idea. My only counterpoint is, and I will say this, I do think that they are going to sell stash tabs. I don't think that that's a question in my mind.
Yeah.
With that said, I don't think a lot of the quality of life stuff that's missing is missing because they didn't care, or else they wouldn't be saying they're going to be changing gyms in season 2. Right?
That is actually a fair point. Yeah.
They're also not saying we're going to make a gym stash tab to sell you. They're saying that it's going to your
materials,
resources. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's actually a good point. Yeah.
I genuinely think that they're trying to get to. I do think that there is going to be more aggressive monetization before the end of the game's life, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
But I also do think that at least some of what's there and that is problems now is not there willingly by the team making it, even in terms of monetization. Because another quality of life that isn't there is, opening up a portal to go start that nightmare sigil. It would make the game so much better than having to run to the nearest town, run to the dungeon, go in, do it once, have to go find the next dungeon in the queue, basically. But they're adding in a portal. When you click it, it'll just take you right there and you can start. And I think, again, if they weren't caring about quality of life, they wouldn't bother. Because the game's sold, almost $250 million worth of sales already?
That sounds...
I'm sorry, $750 million. $750 million.
Sounds like a Blizzard game.
It's 700. I think they were at like $725 million or something.
Blizzard games sell. Doesn't matter.
And honestly, I don't think that they would be caring about quality of life improvements if they were just in it for the cash grab. And I think if it was all just cash grab, these things would have been sorted out instantly in the in-game cash shop, without a question. I also want to say the in-game cash shop is abysmal. I think there are maybe two outfits that are actually good, and almost none of them even compared to what's in-game. It feels like it was almost an afterthought.
I'll be honest, I've refused to click on that tab on principle, so...
I clicked it at some point because I just wanted to know, because I unbound the key even. Like, I was never going to open it.
Exactly, yeah.
And honestly, I don't care. I'm not tempted to buy anything in there. There's nothing that I think looks better than what's in-game. I think that shows, again, that they weren't focused on just selling you extra stuff after the fact. At least the main team's development principles were focused on the game being a game and them working really hard to make it good.
I should note, because I'm always going to come down really hard on Blizzard, because, once bitten, twice shy. But I I do think that genuinely there is an internal feeling of we have to do better now. No more coasting. We literally can't afford it. I also just have it in my mind that yeah, but if you can find a way to make a couple extra dollars, I'm sure you will.
I'm sure they're going to try to, but I think the core gameplay is at a point where it is so impressively good. It doesn't bother me as much because I feel like the team that made this cared a lot about the game they wanted to play. It doesn't feel like Diablo 2. It doesn't feel like Diablo 3. It feels like they set out to make the game they wanted to play in the ARP genre. And I think that they did a great job with it.
And I don't disagree. I think the dev team had a goal and they met it. However, I have seen other teams also have a goal and they just didn't. So I think that's I'm just coming from real shaky ground.
No, that's fair. I'm not saying that in like even a month the game will still be as good as what I'm presenting it as now, but I'm giving them benefit of the doubt until they decide to ruin the good faith.
Sure, like at launch for what it is, it's an astounding step forward from the very questionable and very rocky terrain we've been on.
Yep,
absolutely unarguable.
Okay, what was that, John?
Okay, so I looked up the thing. I guess they reported it when it actually hit this number. But in 5 days it hit 666 million sales.
It's gracious.
In sales, so
it's pretty on point, honestly.
Yeah. Also, you haven't talked about the most important aspect of this game,
which is
I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't come up with the first part. Where's the fucking camel mount?
Actually, unironically, I don't even care that mounts are in the game.
No, I'm talking about where's the camel mount.
Yeah, I wish there was a camel mount. I do wish there was a camel mount. There are camels in game. They have the model. It could be there. They could cash shop it for $100. I blow the money. All right, but like, they do have other variety of mounts in games. There is a moose.
Okay.
There are some different horses. I do think mounts are going to be something that they do end up cash shopping at some point.
Oh, 100%.
But
100%.
But as it stands, again, so much of outside the core gameplay, and this is like really a testament to what I think the game is. Outside the core gameplay, all feels like fluff to me. Like I even think mounts are just fluff. They're just there. Like
I don't actually like using mounts, honestly.
I use it only when I really need to get point A to point B faster. Because other than that, especially when you're like in the campaign, it's better to just run around and kill things anyway. Yeah, just get the XP, get the levels.
Yeah, I don't. I think they're actually kind of hard to control a little bit as well. Trying to get through places.
They have said they're going to address this as well. On console, or just with a controller, mounts always travel at full speed. If you do mounts on PC, other than getting caught on everything, that just happens. It's relative to where your mouse is. So unless your mouse is at the edge of the screen, your horse is not going to be traveling as fast as it should. It's another one of those janky designs. And I feel like it's one of those features that it was not fully thought out, not fully finished. And I think, like, as I said, I think all the gameplay problems generally probably went into actually making the game better.
Yeah.
In terms of moment-to-moment gameplay. So
like, yeah, I'll take the horse being jank. We have one, and it is genuinely completely optional. When I play solo, I tend to forget it's there, and I only tend to use it when I'm in a group and I see someone else mount. I'm like, oh right, let's do that.
It's definitely I think they definitely hit the design right with a lot of things. Even if I don't like the horse as a whole, I don't think that it being there is good or bad in any way. You know what I mean? Like I always have, it's an option. Like, and that's something I think that needs to be more done overall is options, because there just aren't going through it. You have to use it or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think where the game is right now, they've set up to be like, you have the option of using the mount if you want it. It is faster to get around, but then you're not killing stuff, so you're not progressing quite as quickly, especially early on. Later on, almost all of your progression comes out of dungeons anyway. So the mount actually becomes beneficial then because it's, fast to get to dungeon.
Right, efficiency. That makes sense.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't hurt you for having not used it early. And once you are using it, it's because you don't need to do anything in the world anymore. You're done with it. So I think that it scales into the mechanics that are there really well. Like, if everything about the game, like as a whole, other than a quality of life things, all feels really well thought out. And I think that that's a very impressive feat for how much is going on in the game. I think,
I'd agree.
yeah. Go on.
No, I was just gonna agree.
Okay. Yeah. I think what the team has done for D4 is just phenomenal. Again, maybe once you get up there a little bit higher, you guys will like come to see some more of like what I'm talking about. But I think
For sure.
as an experience, D4 is one of the best experiences I've had in a very long time in terms of just playing a new game. And that's really surprising from where it came from.
Yeah. No, honestly, when going back to like a thought you had a while ago, like when the last one was Immortal and it was very likely they expected America to hop on board, this is a fantastic step forward. If this was honestly built out of the response the West had to the mobile game, this is a work of magic.
Yep. So any more thoughts on D4 from anyone?
I was gonna ask. I got two questions. Really.
Okay.
Where do you think D4 stacks up with, at least, I guess, against DOE?
Okay. So I'm gonna broaden this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw in a couple games that I also enjoy here. I'm going to say Path of Exile,
Sure.
Last Epoch, which is it's a smaller game, Warframe, and I'm even going to throw in Destiny because I think it's a fair comparison here.
I agree with you.
Okay. So if I'm going to put Destiny on its own, as I think what you're looking for is if you have a bunch of people that play Destiny, play Destiny. Like, if you think the game is fun, just play it. I don't think it's better or worse than any of the others. I genuinely think that while it does have a hamster wheel kind of effect, a lot of what ends up being there, getting builds together and feeling that sense of accomplishment for finishing out a raid, getting a cool drop or things, really feels good overall. I do think Destiny has a problem of content islands where it's like PvP, PvE, and different modes of PvE all end up wanting you to do different things.
Yeah.
It can be annoying, and you can get progression locked pretty hard at times, and the game does enjoy to nickel and dime you for your experience. I think that it's a good game in its own right, and I think you could coexist on both D4 and Destiny 2 without a lot of issues of them conflicting with each other. I think you could play both at the same time and still have fun, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, Last Epoch, it's a much smaller game. It's made by a small team that were inspired by Diablo 2. And they really wanted to create the game they wanted to play. It started off with literally people just going on forums and saying, hey, you want to try making this game? It's what we want to play. We don't have a lot of experience, but this is what we're trying to make. And they've done a phenomenal job with it. It is very accessible. I think it's almost as accessible as Diablo 3 in terms of like what you're getting started at. I think in terms of building gear, creating a character, kind of building stuff up, things feel a little cookie cutter. It's almost like 2 + 2 = 4 in terms of problem solving. But there's nothing wrong with it. The game is fun. It has a variety of classes. It has unique builds. It is not graphically there. I'm just gonna.
That sounds about right.
I'm just gonna be there. The game does not look good. It also doesn't look bad. It is a very strong middle ground. But I'd say if you want a game, because it's $34, it is a $34 game. It does go on sale occasionally, but it is a $34 game. I don't think that there's a reason to play it right now over D4 unless you just don't want to spend the D4 price tag. Because I think they both kind of solve that problem of it's something you could just like give it to somebody that's never played an ARPG before, and they can do okay through the campaign. And once you start getting the late game, they got a good build together. Mm-hmm. But I think that they basically are the same thing. So I'd say D4 is just a better game than it right now. Lost Ark is a dead meme. I do think it has points where it's been fun. I think that if it's something that you want to play where you can just invest like 2,000 hours in a week and you're just having the best time of your life, keep playing it. D4 is not going to change the fact that it exists. I think they are fundamentally different to a point where you can play either or, and if you don't like one, you might like the other. Path of Exile is a unique problem. So if you are not interested in learning the ins and outs of a game to almost, for lack of a better term, autistic degrees, where you are hyper fixated on just this game, you will never progress through Path of Exile. I know you can get through the story pretty well without having to like learn a lot or do a lot. You can make your own build. You can kind of get through it. But you're going to hit a point where you're not having fun very easily. The game is super not intuitive. It does not do a great job of explaining to you things inside of the game itself. It's even been called a spreadsheet simulator, and it basically is.
Yeah. Goodness, the only other game I've heard called that is Eve.
So to play Path of Exile, and I mean this as like you just want to learn the game, you want to sit down and play. You can either choose to just go through the game once, play it, and see if you enjoy it, just for the story. Just kind of doing your own thing, getting a feel for it. And It's definitely doable. Or you can go look up a build, install Path of Building, which is a separate community-run app, import that build into there and it gives you a guide on how to play, how to level, how to do the skill tree, everything. And you'll have something competent you can kind of take and do higher level content. Or you're never going to progress.
Oh god, that kind of
I do not believe
this is a job, not a game.
It's not that bad.
Have you seen the map for Path of Exile?
Oh, the sphere grid?
Yeah, the sphere grid,
Yeah. Now here's the thing. The sphere grid actually isn't even the biggest problem. Because basically all the sphere grid is, all the leveling for Path of Exile skill tree comes down to more damage or more HP, or a combination of the two. There are definitely fundamental choices to be made at points, but realistically, it's just giving you stats as if you were leveling up normally. But understanding what you need from those stats dictates more about the build you're creating than anything else.
Okay.
And while I do enjoy this level of depth, because once you've done it once or twice, you really don't need guides or anything. You can get general ideas of like, okay, well, these things interact with each other like this.
Right.
And you can kind of just do your own thing. But for the first few times of trying to like get through it, it's a real challenge. On the same note, I didn't really touch on it. I did not enjoy Diablo 4's story all that much. I find Lilith to be a cool character, but I don't understand motivations. I actually feel like she's one of those characters like did nothing wrong realistically, almost.
I'm happy you said that.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat.
I'll be able to back this. Literally every time anyone speaks about Lilith, I keep thinking, so are we the baddies? I feel like, I'm sure, like, knowing who she is, I'm sure she's not good, but also all the words sound correct.
No, she's completely right. Even her final speech, she goes, "You're just a bunch of idiots who are fighting amongst each other when I've given you perfect freedom. You're squandering the gifts I've given you." And she's not wrong. What happens the moment after you at the end of the game? You don't know this yet, but people turn on you. Like, people that were your allies just turn on you. It's not a massive spoiler. I'm not going to elaborate on it too much. But people just turn on you, and it's literally what she said. Everyone's stupid, and everybody's squandering what's around them with infighting, and she's not wrong. Nothing she says is ever wrong.
I've been saying this since like the second cutscene. Like,
I don't get it.
Like, why does it feel like she's not the hero, but doing the correct thing? Like, in this world with the primevals, she seems like she's genuinely trying to undermine them. And Lord knows we can't trust the angels ever. So
Yeah, it's not good. Like, the story is not that good. I think it's serviceable. I think it's okay. If you want to just play the game for the story, it's there.
Yeah, okay.
On the flip side,
I'm not the only one petitioning.
Yeah.
Say, fucking Lilith sounds right. Cool.
Yeah. On the flip side, Path of Exile has a very good story. I actually went into it not caring and ended up really enjoying it.
Oh, I'm surprised. I've literally never heard anyone talk about the narrative.
Because most people have been playing for like 10 plus years and just speed run through the story and don't really pay attention to it anymore. I think it's a very well fleshed out and well-defined world with lots of little tidbits of lore and intrigue about the people, the things going on around you. And the overall plot and story devices are incredibly good and well done. I don't say that about a lot of things, especially not ARPGs normally, because it's normally, hey, go through there, kill the big evil, and you're done.
Yeah, pretty much.
You basically, in Path of Exile, without going into it too much, you are a horrible person. You have been sentenced for a crime of something. It's generally not something like, not something that's unjustified, but it's something that you could see somebody being sentenced for. Okay. You're thrown from. You're no longer on like the good part of the world. They throw you onto this side island, and everything starts going to shit. You basically strong arm your way back to the capital and accidentally awaken an old god.
As one does.
Which awakens a bunch of old gods, which kind of destroys the world around you, because instead of just accepting your fate, you decide to go kill a bunch of people and stop a bunch of things from happening. And basically, you're the reason everything went bad. And then you have to fix it. And I'm cutting out a lot, but I genuinely think if you haven't played it, I think Path of Exile, just for the story, is a fun experience. It is very well thought out. Everything is fully voice acted. And for a actual small independent studio when it was made, I think everything is very well done. Even the seasonal characters and events all have full voice acting and stories. The ones that are still there relate back into the campaign very well. Characters will come up with new bits of dialogue to talk with you about after you finish the main story, because you've now done other things. They'll come back, they'll have new things to say to you. You'll see characters progress, go through different things. It's very well done. It's not something I was prepared for the first time I played it, and I found myself becoming very engaged with it. And that's not something I say about a lot of games I'm not interested in.
Sure.
But as a whole, Path of Exile is a very good game. And I'd say that if you want more depth than Diablo 4, you play PoE. If you want to be able to just say, hey, friend, do you want to play an ARPG with me? You play D4, whether you like it or not, because you will never be able to get somebody that's not interested in playing Path of Exile to play it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, on the forefront of everything I've just praised about Path of Exile, if you're okay with transitioning on to my next little topic.
Absolutely.
Chris Wilson is the head owner, the leader, the grand creator of Grinding Gear Games. The creators of Path of Exile. And I really hate that bald fuck.
Yeah, we've spoken about this.
So, I don't think an ARPG should be Zoom Zoomy, ultra fast, you're flying through everything with no consequence or action. My problem stems from the most likely time you have any challenge in PoE is in the first maybe hour of the game. And you think, well, that's because you don't have any power yet. No, it's just because everything is incredibly overtuned.
Right.
Now, this varies depending on how good you are at the game, because people that have been playing forever aren't going to have as many issues as people that are just installing it. But it definitely feels like if you want to be efficient, or you want to, it just makes the game feel weird, because it doesn't affect good players, other than just getting bullshitted out of like a life or so.
Sure.
And it doesn't affect bad players, because they're going to take a very long time. It affects people in like a weirder middle ground more than anything. And it just feels a bit weird because the game doesn't scale with you properly. The things that they haven't tried to really make the game scale with you properly. And I think one of the big things about PoE is trying new builds, doing something new every season. And they keep breaking a lot of starting builds because in PoE you basically make a build that can get you through the early end game without a lot of investment. And then you get a build together, the items you need for a better build, and you make another character and you kind of like expand upon that. There are things that break that cycle, but basically you have a starter build and then you switch over to a late game build.
Right.
And the variety of starter builds keeps going down. The variety of viable in-game builds keeps going down. And it's all because the gameplay needs to be slowed down. But it's not enough of what you're doing to slow gameplay down, because a big problem with PoE is you get one shot a lot. I mean, just out of nowhere, you just die. You're 100 to 0. Even with like really strong resistancy, very powerful tanky builds, it's not impossible to just get one shot out of darkness occasionally.
So
it's definitely not something that
killer be killed immediately.
Yeah, it's not something that always happens, but the higher up you go, the more it scales, the worse it gets. And it's definitely not something that's unavoidable, but it's something that is just a problem with the game. And I think if you're looking to slow things down, it needs to be less one-shotty and more combative about how you're going about the game itself. And that might be something that they're looking to change in Path of Exile too.
Which is what I was just about to ask you. Is do you think that they'll leave PoE 1 alone just because it's what it is and they don't want to mess with it, and are looking to make those adjustments in their upcoming game that we'll find out more about in 9 days, 8 days?
Very soon. So there are some things with that. PoE 2 is not replacing PoE, but it is. It is Overwatch 2ing itself, where it's...
Oh, that's not great. Don't use that.
Oh, no. Okay. You will still be able to go back and play the original game if you want to. The original campaign will still be there, but they are changing how itemization works. They're adding in... Basically, I'm not saying they're making it easier, but they're adding in quality of life, which is another problem that grinding gear games as a whole has been against. After one season, one league, where they nerfed a bunch of stuff going into the new season, and it was at the all-time lowest of the player base ever, they went through the next season, they added in a lot of quality of life things people have been asking for as kind of like a, hey, we're sorry, but up until then they've been very adamant against. Even simple things like currency that drops with each other, just stacking on each other so you don't have to click as many things. It sometimes feels like it's very disingenuous, especially with things like that, how they're updating the game and how they manage it. It's almost like, oh, well, we know we fucked up, but instead of apologizing and saying we were wrong, here's the quality of life we've been ignoring your pleas for years. Very annoying. But as a whole, I think the changes that they're making from PoE 1 to 2 fundamentally will make the game a better experience for everyone. I don't think we're losing a lot of the depth that's there. We're just getting things to, like, remove a lot of the problems that exist within the game. And it might make accessibility to have somebody come on and be like, hey, would you like to play some PoE with me? Sure, I will download and try the game and not have to look at a spreadsheet in order to just, like, get through it. Right. I think all the changes that they've shown, everything that they're doing, makes the game look substantially better. And since they're rebalancing the whole game from the ground up and adding in a new campaign, a new skill tree, all kinds of things, I think you're going to get a better overall experience where it's more tailor-made to not being as one-shotty or problematic that's in the game now, because you're going to have a better opportunity to play and do new things that's been designed in a more meaningful way, where they know where they maybe want player power level at, instead of having introduced things that add in some power creep over time, where now, you know, like in like the early levels, especially going through the campaign, you'll have like, okay, well, we know characters are going to be this strong here because we know like these events will have happened. You'll have this here, you'll have that there. And we'll have balanced the idea around of getting like the old items, since they're all going to be there. for the end game. I'm very hopeful that they're really putting a lot of effort into the campaign and the game design of PoE 2, because it seems like it's what they want to do, and it's what they're trying to work towards, having made some adjustments in PoE 1. But I'm hesitant to see where it ends up, because it may very well end up just being more of the same problems.
Yeah. This is the worry you were mentioning having, and unfortunately, given what they've shown us, we can't say anything. There was a whole lot of nothing so far.
Yep.
It's also July 28th, not June 28th.
Oh, was it July? Oh goodness,
okay.
Never mind. I'm a full month off.
Yep.
With that said, though, I do think that the general direction that they've been going in terms of like maybe slowing the game down, making things way more deliberate, is definitely good. I also do want to quantify something, because you both saw it in the PoE trailer, that roll dodge that person was doing.
Yeah.
That's not like a skill just like in Diablo where you have it for free. That is also still a skill gem, so it's something that is in the game. It's just another movement ability.
Ah, okay.
From what I know, and I don't think that they're going to be changing that, but I do think what they've shown for the new movement skills and how things work might be making the game a little bit better overall. Because right now, there is a mode called Ruthless PoE, where you do not have any movement skills. The game is a significant amount slower. It is a lot harder. Death has a very large impact on you, even in softcore, because it takes a very long time to level, and when you die, you lose XP. Like, if you play for a week and you die, you might have lost like a full week's worth of getting a level. It's that like in there. But again, it's another game where level 100 isn't guaranteed. You don't need to be max level to enjoy it. But it's definitely a much harder experience, and they've been, I think in that mode, at least, it feels like things are way more deliberate. The game is a lot more challenging, and you definitely find, I think that's not indicative of where they're going with it, but I think it shows that there are people on the staff and on the team, even with the league a while back, which was, I cannot remember the name, but it was basically a roguelite mode where you have to you got to pick and do things.
I remember hearing that. I remember hearing about that league.
There was a challenge for it where you had to go through it without taking damage at all. Like, you had 1 HP no matter what. In order to get a special unique item. And people were doing it. So they definitely know how to make the game balanced around the idea of damage is avoidable, and you can play around being hit without it becoming unfair. And that's something that I think that if they can continue to do as they go, will make the game a lot better. Because, going back to what I said, right now the game is kill or be killed as fast as possible while stacking resistances. And if they can keep up that idea of, like, you have dodgeable damage or things that are very deliberate, I think that's good. Because even the boss fights in PoE, especially the in-game ones, are actually very well made. I'd say that even though most of the time people melt the bosses when you're like at the actual end game, you don't interact with them as much through their mechanics. They still have very good mechanical difficulty. It's not just like, can you take the hit and just DPS through it? You get a lot of genuine fun and challenge out of them, almost like an MMO style fight at times. And it's not something that I think a lot of games do well. And I do think that's very praisable from them in terms of gameplay design.
Yeah.
But if any of this is going to transfer over into PoE 2, I don't know. The things I do know about the game as a whole are they're definitely aiming to slow it down a little. They want the campaign to be a full new experience, about the same length as the one that's currently there. The new skill tree is coming. The new character classes are coming. There are going to be new weapon archetypes, new skill gems, rebalances to everything. The way gear works for slotting it is there's no longer every piece of gear has a certain number of sockets on it. They're always linked. So you can have more skills available to you. You can have more abilities available to you. They might want to make it so that way you're not playing with just like a one-button build, which is the very prevalent way that it's played right now, where you just basically stack and support a single attack and you kill everything with it as quickly as possible. They might be looking to try and make so you have like a skill that clears rooms really well, and then you have like a single target skill or things like that, or combo of skills. I know they want a lot of new archetypes for weapons. It's definitely a worthy successor to what they've shown, or like what's there. And I think that the game has hope for being good. And I will say this. If you're on the fence about wanting to play Diablo 4, right? Like, if you're like, I don't know if I want to spend the money, I'll wait for PoE 2 to see if it's my kind of game. I'd highly recommend not waiting. Because if you don't like PoE in the state it's in, I don't know if it's going to be easy enough to ever get into to a point where it's going to be something you're going to want to try for. And I don't think that that's going to change. It might slightly. But I think PoE will always be a substantially harder experience to get into, even with PoE 2.
All right.
Do you have any questions about the game overall or anything?
Not
I mean,
particularly.
I played. I mean, obviously, me and Dollar are gonna we'll get as far as we can in Diablo, so we'll be able to actually do some of the stuff that you've talked about. PoE wise, I mean, I've played the beginning of PoE, so when you were describing that thing, but it also never grabbed my attention. So
that's fair.
So I mean, I'll probably try out PoE 2. Well, I mean, I will watch the PoE 2 thing at the end of July, and see what they say. But if it's just gonna be PoE 1, but like I guess better, then probably not. I mean, I'm not a big ARPG person myself. Like I said, I've Borderlands and Diablo are like the two that I've actually sunken in like more than 30 hours into of my life.
For sure.
So I'm not like too big of a person of them, but like I mean, I try games, and it like PoE's free, so I mean, that's also that. So I mean, free's a good number. But I feel like I've.
All right, I'm gonna be that guy for a moment. PoE is actually not free.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'm concerned, the game is free to try.
Oh.
Because while the primary thing you get out of PoE's cash shop is cosmetics, which can, I will say, are very expensive. Like, you can spend $500 plus on a single like set of cosmetics. Yeah. There is practical stuff in there. They do sell you stash tabs. And the two big things they sell you are the maps tab and the currency tab. So in PoE, you don't have like gold like in Diablo. You have items that are used for modifying your gear. The common one of these is the Chaos Orb. It's basically equivalent to being like a gold or like a decent like 100 gold or so in most other games. It is what people use to trade with each other. It sets the standard for like all pricing and value of items in the game. And the currency, when you have a normal tab, it's very annoying to deal with because it just gets thrown in there. It just stacks up and only stacks up to like a certain number of times. And then it creates another stack. So it takes up a lot of space. The currency tab you can buy fixes that whole problem. Things stack infinitely. It's put into like its own separate little thing. It's very easy to look at a glance and pull out what you need, however much you need, without having to do a lot of extra running around. It is not only incredible quality of life, I would say it is honestly a necessity to have if you want to play the game past like past the story at all. I'd also be willing to say that for the maps tab, as you progress into the end game, maps are basically riffs from Diablo. It's how you progress your character and what you're primarily going to be doing. and it instantly sorts them and manages them very well for you and makes it very easy to maintain and do. Also, you can't trade with other players realistically unless you have a premium stash tab, as that's how you list items on their trade shop. So you need that if you want to be able to do any kind of trading, which is another very large fundamental part of the game. So overall, PoE is more like a $30 game, maybe. Probably a little bit less, but you probably spend about $30 on it in order to actually be able to play it in a way that's good. Because it's not negotiable if you want to actually play it. You will never make enough meaningful progress without those quality of life and improvements that you get from those 3 specific stash tabs to be able to ever play it otherwise.
I see.
So PoE is free to maybe go through the campaign, maybe try it out. You can probably enjoy it very well still. But you will inevitably want to spend money on those quality of life because you have to. It's not a choice. I will also say, as somebody that enjoys looking like not trash in games,
cosmetics is always
you have to. You actually really need to. The gear in game looks horrible, and the quality of the cosmetics that they've made are great. The way they do the cosmetics also, I will say, is slightly predatory because it does prey on fear of missing out. Because with each expansion, like the seasons, they release a set of 2 cosmetics that after the end of that expansion go away. It's about $30 for like some fluff, and then another $30 for the full armor set, and they're all kind of themed around one thing. So $60 for that full set. With that, you get points. So when you buy those, you're getting the points to buy other things from the shop, so other cosmetics or stash tabs. So it's actually a very good way of doing it. It lets you pick something up, and if you like it, hey, there you go. You got a nice outfit you can use, and you have money to spend on the practical stuff. They also have the ones that rotate yearly whenever they do a massive update, normally at the end of the year, at the start of the new year. They release a large one, and they give but these packs are a lot more expensive. They generally range from about $60 up to, I believe, $580. Each pack you buy in that line will decrease the cost of the 580 one. So you could do it as like, if you were looking to buy like the big one and you didn't want to do it all at once, you could easily just buy once every couple months if that's what you wanted to do to work up to it. If you think like that final tier, you really want to support the game, or you just really like the look of it, you can work your way up to it monetarily. But it will go away, and it does do that fear of missing out prey, and it's not very good. But the only thing that affects the gameplay are the stash tabs. That is it. You cannot buy power in any other form. And I do think that in its own right is good design, because it doesn't really hurt to pay $30 for what I think Path of Exile offers. And at almost 1,000 hours in,
Sure.
I will still say that it's probably one of the best designed RPGs as a whole, because if you have an idea for something you want to do, right? And this is something that Diablo lacks, something that almost every other game lacks. If you can think of something that exists within the game and you want to utilize it in a unique way, you can. You can make a build where you summon skeletons and they just explode on death as soon as you summon them, and it causes them to explode and they kill enemies that way. You can make builds where you infinitely hurt yourself in a loop and it causes you to cast a spell where every time you take damage, you cast a spell that does a lot more damage. So you're just smacking yourself constantly while regenerating HP faster and things can kill you, and it makes the screen flood with a billion effects all at once. If you can think of it, and there's a reasonable way of it exists in game, you can do it. Whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
The depth that PoE offers is unmatched by any other game available at all. And for the price of $30 realistically to get into it, it is an incredibly high bar they've set for every other game to match in terms of freedom and creativity.
All right.
But PoE is not free, no matter what people want to tell you.
Well, Zeke, This has been very very informative, actually. We're at 2.5 hours for this podcast.
2.5 hours of me mostly ranting. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it out. It would go. I figured it would go far. You're like we have another guy that we have on here, Lavrin, and he once he gets going, it's actually very hard to get him to stop.
I'm very passionate, and I'm sure he is too.
Yeah, he's extremely passionate. Thank you for coming on, though. And
for sure, man, it's been great.
I'll be glad to come back on after season 1 of Diablo drops, and maybe we get to see the PoE 2 content if you guys want to have me back.
I'd be interested in having you back for that. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Right.
What are our plans this week? What are we doing?
Actually. Yeah, I'm gonna keep grinding in Diablo 4. Try to get level 100. See how far I can push it.
That's more of a rhetorical question because we're all playing Final Fantasy 16.
And Diablo, yes. This is the only 2 games that I'm playing.
Yeah, that's actually true. Which I have pre-ordered, and I'm considering just taking the day off work. I didn't think I would say that, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even do that for Diablo, and I wasn't expecting to like it. But I like 16 enough that I think I'm willing to sacrifice a day of work to do it.
Well, let's go. I look forward to it. I will also be playing 16. I will also be playing Diablo up until 16's launch. Past that, just a couple of mobile titles here and there while I'm at work.
Yeah, I will definitely be playing. I'm taking 3 days off of work, but it's paid vacation, so I'm still getting paid.
Respect that.
Yeah, I will be definitely playing 16 all day, every day. I'm unplugging my headset from my computer and plugging it in my PlayStation 5.
I'm gonna be dead to the world. Share.
So I could just have direct sound, and I'm not even gonna be playing like sound through my speakers. It's just gonna be fucking it directly into my ears.
I'm so mad at myself that I didn't think to do this. I tried it out today. Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
I got some high quality headphones as well. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I recently just bought like a more expensive pair of headphones, like some studio stuff. I gotta say, 16 sound design, really on point.
Absolutely.
Soaking, man.
That's the music. But yeah, even the normal sound design is also very good.
Yeah.
That's us for the week, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you've went this far in this podcast, please give us a like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week for our normal show. I guess I don't have anything planned, so it's just gonna be a normal news show.
See you then. Be good.
Bye.
Before you go, remember to like, comment, and sub to us. Not only does it help out the channel and let us know what you're into, but it also makes you 100% cooler than everybody else. I checked with Opera. It's definitely